The silent collapse of the sun. Have you ever wondered how it might feel to stand in the shadow of an ever-vanishing light? To know that the warmth that has sustained life for eons is, in fact, fading away? The sun, our closest star, the heart of our solar system, will not burn forever. Like all stars, it has a limited lifespan, measured not in the moments we experience, but in the vast expanse of time that stretches beyond our comprehension. In around 5 billion years, it will begin to die. At first, the change will be slow, imperceptible to the human eye. The sun will expand, swelling to a red giant, so large that it could swallow the inner planets, including Earth. The oceans will boil away. The atmosphere will be stripped from our planet, leaving nothing but a barren, lifeless rock. But it won't end with this dramatic expansion. As the sun runs out of fuel, it will shed its outer layers, releasing a burst of energy that will send shockwaves through the cosmos. Its core will collapse into a white dwarf, a dense remnant, slowly fading into cold nothingness. The Earth, should it survive this cosmic metamorphosis, will no longer be the planet that sustained life. This event is beyond the scope of human experience. It will happen so far in the future that it doesn't affect our daily lives yet. It reminds us of the impermanence of everything we hold dear. We look up at the sun every day and see only its brightness, unaware of the gradual, silent processes that sustain its glow. In the silence of the cosmos, everything fades. The sun's collapse will not be an event we can witness. We will not hear its death rattle or watch the collapse in real time. But it will happen, quietly, as all things do. A reminder that even the most constant of forces in our universe must eventually bow to time. Perhaps, in contemplating the slow burn of the sun's inevitable end, we can find solace in the present, aware that our own moments are as precious as the light that now shines upon us. In the great expanse of the universe, every moment counts, and the fragility of life becomes all the more beautiful. A sudden gamma ray burst. Imagine, for a moment, a burst of energy so powerful, so sudden, that it strikes with the force of 1,000 supernovae combined. A gamma ray burst, a fleeting moment of unimaginable destruction, racing toward Earth at the speed of light. Gamma ray bursts are the most violent explosions in the universe, often caused by the collapse of massive stars or the collision of neutron stars. They release more energy in a few seconds than the sun will emit throughout its entire lifetime. And in the blink of an eye, if Earth were to fall within its path, the consequences would be swift and total. If a gamma ray burst were to strike us from a nearby galaxy, the effects would be catastrophic. The Earth's atmosphere, our protective shield, would be stripped away. The radiation would destroy the ozone layer, leaving life vulnerable to intense ultraviolet rays. Oceans would boil, and the very foundation of life would be disrupted. But this is not an event we can predict or prepare for. Gamma ray bursts, though rare, are unpredictable. The universe is filled with cosmic forces beyond our understanding, and the vastness of space means that we may never know when such a burst is headed our way. It is the cosmic equivalent of a lightning bolt, flashing across the sky without warning. Yet, in a way, this fleeting moment of cosmic violence reminds us of the fragility of existence. Life, as we know it, is a delicate dance of forces and timing. We cannot control the events of the universe, nor can we know when they will unfold. But in embracing the uncertainty of life, we learn to appreciate the small, quiet moments that fill our days. As we look to the stars, knowing that their brilliance is often the result of catastrophic events long past, we might find peace in the realization that all things, even the most powerful bursts of energy, are but brief moments in the eternal cycle of the cosmos. The fall of a black hole. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to fall into the dark heart of the universe? To surrender to the infinite pull of a force so powerful, it bends the very fabric of reality? Black holes, those mysterious cosmic giant star regions where gravity is so intense that nothing, not even light, can escape. Once a star has burned through its fuel and collapses under its own weight, it can transform into a black hole. These immense objects have fascinated scientists and philosophers alike, as they represent the boundaries of what we can know and understand. But what if a black hole were to suddenly appear near our own solar system? A wandering giant, silently drifting toward us, bending space and time in ways we cannot even imagine. As it draws nearer, the fabric of space-time would stretch and distort, creating gravitational waves that ripple outward, like the silent waves of a storm that no one can see. For Earth, the consequences would be unimaginable. The closer we would get to the black hole, the stronger its pull would become. The Earth would begin to spiral toward it, accelerating with each passing moment. Time itself would begin to slow down on the event horizon of the black hole. Time as we know it would stretch into infinity. Our perception of reality would fragment as the world around us transformed into something entirely alien. And then, in the final moment, Earth would be consumed. The planet, along with all life, would be swallowed whole by the singularity, where all the mass and energy of the universe are crushed into an infinitesimally small point. There would be no explosion, no dramatic show of force, just a gradual, inevitable fall into the unknown. Yet, in the quiet, profound mystery of the black hole's existence, we are reminded of the deep unknowns that lie at the heart of the universe. Black holes are more than just physical phenomena. They are symbols of the unknown limits of space, time, and knowledge. They remind us of our place in the vast, incomprehensible cosmos, where even our most brilliant minds are humbled by the depth of what remains beyond our reach. As we look up at the night sky, we can rest in the quiet comfort that there is so much yet to learn. The universe is full of forces far greater than ourselves, and in their presence, we find both awe and humility. Asteroid impact. Have you ever gazed at the sky and wondered if, perhaps, something unseen is hurtling toward us, something with the power to change everything in an instant? Asteroids, those rocky remnants of the early solar system, are scattered throughout space, sometimes silently passing by, sometimes crossing our orbit. Most of the time, they pose no threat. But there are moments in history when the silence is broken, when the impact of one small object changes the course of life forever. The most famous impact in Earth's history occurred about 66 million years ago. A massive asteroid, roughly 6 miles wide, collided with Earth, causing the mass extinction of the dinosaurs. The impact released an unimaginable amount of energy, equivalent to billions of atomic bombs. The shockwave would have been felt worldwide, igniting fires, triggering tsunamis, and throwing dust and debris into the atmosphere, blocking the sun for months or even years. The result was a dramatic shift in the Earth's climate, wiping out nearly 75% of life on the planet. Today, the risk of a similar event remains. Though humanity has made great strides in tracking large asteroids, there are still many we cannot detect. A direct impact with a large asteroid would be catastrophic. The consequences would depend on the size, speed, and location of the strike, but the outcome would likely involve widespread devastation, earthquakes, tsunamis, and a dramatic shift in climate, perhaps even an extinction event. Yet, in the quietude of this cosmic uncertainty, we are reminded of the randomness of life. The universe is full of forces that are beyond our control, and we are, in many ways, just passengers on a fragile, rotating rock, floating through the vastness of space. We are not invincible, nor are we guaranteed permanence. The asteroid that struck the Earth so long ago teaches us that life is fleeting, shaped by events we cannot predict. And perhaps this uncertainty is what makes life all the more precious. In the grand scheme of things, we may be small and vulnerable, but it is in our fragility that we find the beauty of existence, each moment, each breath, a gift in a universe full of chaos and chance. The end of the Earth's magnetic field. What if the invisible force that surrounds Usselant and unnoticed suddenly vanished? The magnetic field that protects Earth from the sun's harsh radiation, the very shield that allows life to thrive, would be gone. What would we do without it? The Earth's magnetic field is a vital, yet often overlooked, part of our existence. Generated by the motion of molten iron in the Earth's outer core, this field extends far into space, protecting our atmosphere and shielding us from harmful solar and cosmic radiation. Without it, the planet would be exposed to the full force of the sun's winds radiation that could strip away our atmosphere, ignite fires, and cause irreparable damage to life. A weakening or sudden collapse of the Earth's magnetic field is not just a theoretical worry. It has happened before. Over geological timescales, the Earth's magnetic poles have flipped traversing their positions. This process, known as geomagnetic reversal, happens irregularly, with the last reversal occurring roughly 780,000 years ago. While these flips do not appear to cause immediate mass extinctions, the process can leave the Earth vulnerable to solar radiation for periods of time. However, a sudden collapse of the field could have catastrophic effects. If the magnetic shield weakened quickly or disappeared altogether, we would find ourselves exposed to the constant barrage of solar winds, which would erode the ozone layer that protects us from ultraviolet radiation. Over time, this could lead to extreme climate shifts and a collapse of ecosystems, with plants and animals struggling to survive in a rapidly changing environment. The loss of our magnetic field would be an event beyond our control, a cosmic reminder of the delicate balance that sustains life. We rely on so many forces, both visible and invisible, that we often take for granted. The magnetic field is one of these hidden forces, one that shields us from the harshness of space and allows life to thrive. Without it, we would be left vulnerable in a universe full of dangers. In contemplating this, we find a humbling truth. Life, though resilient, is fragile. We are held together by forces we cannot always see or understand. The magnetic field reminds us that even the most unassuming forces can be the ones that protect and preserve us. And perhaps, in this vulnerability, we find a deeper appreciation for the unseen threads that keep us safe, and for the fleeting nature of all things in the grand sweep of time. The expansion of the universe. Have you ever thought about what might happen if the universe itself, this vast and unfathomable expanse, suddenly stretched too far? What if it expanded so quickly that we were left alone, drifting in a universe growing more and more distant with each passing moment? The universe is not static. It has been expanding ever since the Big Bang, the cataclysmic event that gave birth to all matter, energy, and space. For billions of years, galaxies, stars, and planets have been drifting further apart, carried by the expansion of space itself. What we see as a stable and eternal cosmos is, in fact, constantly shifting, growing, and changing. But there is a point at which the expansion could accelerate beyond our current understanding. Dark energy, the mysterious force driving this expansion, is pushing galaxies apart at an ever-increasing rate. In the far future, it is possible that the universe will continue to expand so quickly that galaxies, stars, and even the light itself will be stretched beyond recognition. Imagine a time when every galaxy is so far away that the light from them will never reach us again. The universe will become a lonely place, where the once bright stars of distant galaxies fade from view, leaving only an endless expanse of dark, empty space. The universe will continue to grow, but we will be isolated, alone, in a cold, silent stretch of time. This is the distant future far beyond our own lifetimes or even the existence of Earth itself. Yet, in the contemplation of such an event, we find a humbling truth. Nothing is permanent, not even the universe itself. It reminds us that everything in the cosmos, no matter how grand, has a beginning and an end. The vast distances between galaxies, once something we marveled at, will become the defining feature of an empty, endless eternity. In this expansion, we are given a paradox. The faster the universe stretches, the more we come to understand the fragility of our existence. We are part of a grand, ever-changing dance, and while the steps may seem eternal, there is always the potential for a change, for a shift that will leave us in isolation, fading into the distance. Perhaps this is why we find such beauty in the present moment, in the brief intersection of our existence with the vast, expanding universe around us. For, in the end, it is the fleeting, precious moments that make the experience of life so profoundly meaningful. Supernova explosion. Have you ever stood beneath the night sky, looking up at the stars, and thought of the immense forces hidden behind their glow? What if one of those stars, so far away, suddenly exploded in a burst of brilliance, a flash of light so powerful it could reshape everything in its wake? A supernova is the dramatic death of a massive star, the violent culmination of a life spent burning through its fuel. When the core of such a star can no longer sustain the pressure from its own gravity, it collapses, triggering an explosion so intense that it briefly outshines an entire galaxy. The shockwave from this explosion sends shockwaves across space, scattering heavy elements across the cosmos, feeding the creation of new stars, planets, and even life itself. The energy released in a supernova is so great that it can disrupt the balance of everything around it. If Earth were close enough, the effects could be catastrophic. The radiation could strip away the atmosphere, burn life from the surface, and alter the very chemistry of our planet. The skies would light up in a flash of unimaginable energy, and in an instant, everything would be changed. Yet, supernovae are not just destructive. They are creators as well. The very elements that make up our bodies, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our cells, were forged in the fiery hearts of long-dead stars, released into the universe through supernova explosions. Without these stellar deaths, the elements needed for life as we know it would not exist. A supernova is both a death and a birth, an end and a beginning, a symbol of the endless cycle of creation and destruction that defines the cosmos. While we may never experience the explosive death of a star ourselves, in contemplating it, we are reminded of the delicate balance between destruction and creation in the universe. Even in the most violent of cosmic events, there is a certain Bhutia paradoxical harmony in the way life and death interweave across the stars. Supernovae remind us that every ending makes way for a new beginning, that the force of death can also give birth to the seeds of life. And in this cosmic dance, we find a reflection of our own lives, fragile, fleeting, but, in the end, a necessary part of the universe's grand, ever-turning wheel, the end of Earth's orbit. What if one day, without warning, Earth drifted off its path set adrift in the black sea of space, no longer anchored by the familiar rhythm of the sun? We think of Earth's orbit as eternal, a silent dance around the sun, dependable and precise, marking seasons, guiding life, defining time. But what if something broke that rhythm? A sudden gravitational disturbance, a rogue planet passing too close, a dark star disrupting the cosmic balance, or even a shift deep within the fabric of space itself could knock Earth from its orbit. At first, it might go unnoticed. A subtle change in climate, a slight shift in sunrise. But soon, it would be undeniable. Without the sun's steady pull, Earth would begin to drift, not spin out violently, but quietly glide into the deep. As the distance grew, the warmth would fade, the skies would darken, crops would wither, oceans would freeze. Eventually, Earth would become a wandering world, cold, lost, and silent. The atmosphere would collapse into ice. The air itself might crystallize. Life, as we know it, would vanish not with an explosion, but with a slow, solemn quiet. A planet without a path, a world without a home. This idea is more than science fiction. Gravity is not just a foresight, it is a relationship, a bond. And like any bond, it can be broken under the right strain. Our orbit, for all its reliability, is part of a delicate balance of mass, velocity, and position on small push, and the equation changes. But in this haunting possibility, there is also perspective. We often look at the stars and think of them as distant, unrelated, but we are part of that system. We are tethered to the sun, to the galaxy, to the very structure of the universe. And while we move through space, space also moves through us. Our lives are governed by the silent pull of forces we rarely notice. If Earth were to lose its orbit, we would lose more than warmth. We would lose the constancy that gives meaning to our clocks, our calendars, our lives. Yet, perhaps, in imagining this drifting solitude, we begin to cherish the invisible thread that keeps us near the light, the quiet comfort of knowing we belong to something bigger. So tonight, when you look up at the sky, remember, we are not standing still. We are circling, held in a perfect embrace by gravity's hand, not forever, but for now. And in that now there is beauty, a world in motion, a life in balance, a moment held gently in the turning arms of space. Cosmic radiation storms. What if the sky, serene and blue, turned suddenly against us, not with wind or thunder, but with invisible fire from the stars? High above our heads, beyond the safety of clouds and ozone, cosmic radiation drifts silently through space. These high-energy particles, born from ancient supernovae and distant galactic cores, travel across the cosmos at nearly the speed of light. Most of the time, Earth's magnetic field and atmosphere protect us, shielding life from their destructive force. But sometimes, the shield wavers. A solar storm erupts, sending a wave of particles from our own sun. Or worse, an event from far away, a quasar's flare, or a gamma burst unleashes a storm of radiation that races through the cosmos. If the storm is strong enough, and Earth lies in its path, the consequences could be dire. Satellites would fail. GPS systems would falter. Communications would go silent. Power grids might overload, plunging cities into darkness. But that's just the beginning. If the radiation pierced deep enough, it could damage the DNA of living things, causing illness, mutations, or even the slow breakdown of ecosystems. Crops could fail. Animal populations might collapse. Humans, without protection, would become fragile in the face of the invisible. And the most haunting part, we wouldn't even see it coming. There would be no sound, no flash, just the quiet arrival of energy too vast to measure, too fast to outrun. Yet, cosmic radiation storms are not born of malice. They are part of the universe's natural breath-the-pulsing energy of stars, the exhalations of galaxies. In their chaos, they seed the building blocks of life. They stir the soup of atoms. They remind us that destruction and creation are woven tightly together. Still, it's humbling to realize that all of our achievements, our cities, machines, hopes depend on a bubble of calm within an ocean of cosmic violence. One rupture, one storm, and the balance shifts. And perhaps that's the quiet lesson, that safety is an illusion, and yet we live as though the sun will always rise, the networks will always work, and the world will always hum gently along. But the truth is, we are lucky. Every moment of calm is a gift. Every breath taken under blue sky is a silent miracle. The universe is not cruel. It is simply indifferent. And from that indifference, we can choose to find meaning, to cherish the fragile systems that protect us, to respect the vastness that surrounds us, to live with wonder, knowing we exist in a thin veil of calm, surrounded by a storm we cannot see. Alien invasion. What if, one night, we looked up and saw a light that wasn't a star moving with purpose, pulsing with intelligence, not our own? The idea of alien life has haunted our dreams and inspired our stories for centuries. From ancient mythologies to modern science fiction, we've imagined visitors from beyond, some curious, some benevolent, some far less kind. But what if one day it wasn't imagination anymore? What if they came? An alien invasion doesn't have to mean towering ships and laser beams. It could be quiet, surgical, unseen, a virus seeded from afar, a signal that reprograms our technology, a sudden silence from every satellite, every screen, every voice that once filled the air. Their weapons may not look like ours. Their reasons may not even make sense to us. Because intelligence, real intelligence evolved light years away, might not care for our language, our culture, or our survival. Perhaps they are explorers, or scavengers, or just forces of nature, moving forward with indifference, like a glacier across a valley. We could try to talk, to explain, but how do you reason with a species whose logic was shaped by a different sun, a different gravity, a different soul? Some scientists say such contact is unlikely, that distances are too great, that life may be rare. But others whisper a different truth, that the silence of space may not mean absence, it may mean danger. That intelligent civilizations, once loud, have gone dark for a reason, that perhaps they spoke and were heard. And yet, even in this haunting possibility, there is something beautiful. The idea that we are not alone, that the stars are not just burning rocks, but lanterns hanging in a neighborhood we haven't yet explored. The fear of alien invasion is not just about destruction, it is the fear of being small, of being unprepared, of being seen, but it is also the hope that we matter enough to be seen at all. In contemplating an invasion from the stars, we are reminded of how rare and precious our world is. Our warmth, our oceans, our trees, our languages. We are one planet in a sea of endless possibility, and we have no guarantees. No shields, no promises. So we build stories, we look up, we wonder, and maybe, just maybe, that curiosity is our greatest defense or willingness to imagine, to prepare, to dream. Whether we face the stars with fear or with wonder, we face them together, united by the fragile miracle of being human. The end of the moon. Have you ever watched the moon rise and felt a strange comfort in its silence, as if it has always been there and always will be? But what if, one day, it simply began to drift away? The moon is more than just a pale companion in the night sky. It is Earth's silent partner, a stabilizing force in our cosmic dance. Its gravity pulls at our oceans, guiding tides that shape coastlines and feed marine life. It slows the Earth's spin, keeping our days steady. It even balances our tilt, giving us seasons and in turn, life as we know it. But the moon is slowly leaving us. About 3.8 centimeters every year. It's a quiet retreat, but a real one. Over immense stretches of time, this departure will grow more noticeable. Tides will weaken, days will lengthen. Earth's tilt may begin to wobble, unsettling weather patterns, unsettling life. Now imagine if something accelerated that departure. A powerful impact, a gravitational pull from a passing body, a cosmic shift. The moon could spiral away or worse, crash down. Without it, Earth would change, not all at once, not in a blaze of fire, but slowly, subtly, the rhythms of life would begin to unravel. Animal migrations, long tuned to the lunar cycle, would lose their anchor. Coral reefs, blooming by moonlight, might fall out of sync. Human sleep patterns, already fragile, might weaken even more. Our calendars, stories, and songs, so many of them shaped by the moon, would drift into irrelevance. And the nights would be darker. The moon has always been a mirror reflecting not just sunlight, but our hopes, our longing, our myths. From wolves howling to lovers whispering, it has stood above us like a watchful eye. Its loss would not only be scientific, it would be emotional, cultural, a wound in the sky. Yet even in this Dothoff, the moon's end, we find a strange kind of peace, a reminder that even the most eternal things are changing, slowly, silently. The moon may seem still, but it moves. It teaches us that nothing remains exactly where it began, not even us. And so we look up while it's still there, we take in its glow, we share it with those we love. Because in this vast, shifting universe, even a steady moon is a fleeting gift. The sudden disappearance of dark matter. What if the invisible scaffolding holding up the universe simply vanished? Not with a bang, but in silencing a warning. No sound, just gone. Dark matter. Mysterious. Silent. Everywhere. It doesn't shine, reflect, or absorb light. We cannot see it, yet it outweighs the stars. It binds galaxies together, whispering through the void, shaping the cosmos like unseen hands. We only know it exists because of what it does. Without it, galaxies would tear themselves apart. Their stars would fly outward, spinning off into the abyss. Gravity, as we understand it, isn't strong enough to hold everything together. But dark matter, it's the hidden mass, the cosmic glue. Now imagine if, without cause or explanation, it disappeared. At first, the stars would wobble. Their paths would bend, curve strangely, then break. Galaxies would come undone. The spiral arms of the Milky Way again and ancient would begin to unravel. Solar systems would drift, planets knocked from their orbits, and here, on Earth, the skies would change. Maybe not in days or weeks, but over years. The night sky would grow unfamiliar. Patterns we've known since the beginning of time would dissolve. The balance of gravity would shift. Perhaps even time itself would feel different, stretched or slowed, as the very structure of the universe changed. And what of us? Would we feel it? Would we notice at first? Or would it begin as a subtle, uneasy change in how light moves, how things fall, how clocks tick? We are children of gravity. Everything we do, everything we are depends on the balance that dark matter keeps. Without it, the universe would begin to fall apart, not in fire, but in slow motion, quietly, completely, a grand unraveling. But in contemplating the loss of something we've never seen, we are reminded of how little we understand. We live on a stage built from mysteries. Our lives are shaped by forces we cannot touch. And still, we believe, we build, we love. Perhaps that's what dark matter teaches us, in its absence. That even when we do not see the structure, it is there. Even when we don't know what holds things together, something does. And maybe, just maybe, that same mystery lives in us. So tonight, when you look into the dark sky, know that it is not empty. Know that you are held not only by gravity, but by the invisible, the unknown, the things beyond. The arrival of a rogue planet. What if, from the depths of interstellar space, a lone wanderer came nearsolent, dark, and uninvited? A rogue planet, a world without a sun, cast adrift after some violent past, perhaps ejected from its birth system or abandoned by a dying star. These worlds drift endlessly through the galaxy, wrapped in frozen night, bound by no orbit, beholden to no star, and yet they are real. Scientists believe there could be billions of them, roaming unseen. Now imagine one comes close, not a crash, not a collision, but a slow creeping arrival. At first, its presence might go unnoticed, no light to betray it, no heat to mark its path. But the gravity would begin to pungently at first, then with growing force. The orbits of distant comets might shift. The Oort cloud would ripple. Then the outer planets would begin to feel the tug. As the rogue planet drew nearer, the careful harmony of our solar system would falter. The gravitational dance that's held for billions of years would start to unravel. Jupiter's orbit could stretch, Saturn might tilt, and our precious Earth could wobble, drift, or be flung entirely into a new path. The consequences would be immense. Seasons could become erratic. Climate systems might collapse. Tides would surge or vanish. Entire ecosystems, dependent on cycles we take for granted, would begin to fail. And the rogue planet, it wouldn't care. It would pass silently by, wrapped in its ancient cold. It wouldn't even notice us. It has no eyes, no purpose, just motion, just momentum. But perhaps that's what makes it so haunting. That something so vast, so world-shifting, could be so indifferent, that an entire civilization could unravel in the wake of a planet that never even knew we were here. Still, there's beauty in the idea of the rogue planet, a reminder that not all things are fixed, that even planets can be lost, that even the grandest systems can be unsettled, and yet here we are, stable, anchored, dancing still in the warmth of our star, for now. So we watch the skies. We measure the stars. We listen to the gravity, not because we expect disaster, but because we understand how thin the line is between harmony and chaos. And perhaps, in imagining the cold approach of a lonely world, we come to cherish our inner warmth, our rhythm, our fragile balance in the vastness of the dark. Solar flare Armageddon. What if, one morning, the sun rose a little too fiercely, and within hours, our world went dark not from lack of light, but from too much of it? Solar flares are bursts of energy from the surface of the sun, explosions of radiation and charged particles that ripple through space. Most of the time, they go unnoticed here on Earth. Our magnetic field deflects them. Our atmosphere shields us. But every so often, the sun unleashes something more violent. A coronal mass ejection. A solar storm strong enough to reach across millions of miles and touch our world. If a flare of that magnitude hit Earth today, it wouldn't scorch us in flame or light. It would strike our technology silently, suddenly. Power grids would collapse. Satellites would fail. GPS systems would shut down. Planes might be grounded. Communications, gone. The internet dark. What follows is not fire, but confusion. No banking systems, no water pumping stations, no hospitals with working machines, no warnings, no help, just silence and darkness and fear. The last major solar storm to hit Earth was in 1859, the Carrington event. Back then, it set telegraph wires on fire. But in today's world, built on silicon and signals, the damage will go far deeper. Some scientists say it could take months, maybe years to recover. And the sun, indifferent as always, would simply go on shining. Solar flares are not fantasy. They are part of the sun's nature. They remind us that even the thing that gives us life can, in a moment, disrupt it completely. That the same light that warms us can also erase our voices, our systems, our fragile digital world. But in this danger, there's also a strange grace, a reminder of our limits, a humbling force that says, you are not in control. You live by the kindness of a star. And perhaps, in imagining that silence, we find clarity. We see how connected we are, how each tap, each message, each hum of electricity is part of a delicate network, one that could vanish in a breath. So tonight, as the lights glow around you, remember the sun. Not just its warmth, but its power. Not just its beauty, but its unpredictable nature. And if ever the world goes quiet, not from night, but from flare, may we remember that even in darkness, we have each other. That even when the sky burns too bright, there is still time to listen, to hold, to be human in the calm after the storm. A collision with a dark star, what if, drifting through the silence of space, a shadow approached a star, massive and ancient, yet giving off no light. A dark star is not fiction. It is a concept born of astrophysical mystery, a theoretical objective remnant of collapsed matter so dense it absorbs rather than emits. Not quite a black hole, not quite a neutron star, something in between, hidden in darkness, waiting. Imagine such an object entering our solar system, slowly, invisibly. It wouldn't arrive in a blaze. It would be cold, quiet, unseen until it was too close to ignore. And then the balance would break. The planets would start to drift. Orbits would curve. Tides would stretch and twist. Earth's gentle rhythm would begin to tear, not because of fire, but gravity and unseen weight pulling everything apart. The dark star wouldn't collide in a traditional sense. It might pass by, its gravitational presence enough to crack the orbits of moons, to unhinge the rotation of planets. Asteroids might rain, Earth's tilt might shift, and if the object passed close enough, Earth could be flung into deep space or pulled inward toward a silent death. This would not be a sudden disaster. No sirens, no flames. Just the slow, dreadful unmaking of a solar system. And what is most haunting is that we might not see it until it's near. Our telescopes search for light, but a dark star hides from light. It walks in shadow. Its approach would be known only by what it disturbs, like an unseen predator felt in the tremble of the ground. But in this idea of a hidden star that moves with silent power, we're reminded of the things that shape us without ever showing themselves. The invisible pressures, the quiet forces, the weights we don't speak of but feel. Life is full of dark stars, forces of change, loss, transition. They do not burn or shout, but they pull at us, gently, deeply, until we find ourselves changed. And perhaps that's what the dark star truly represents, not a destroyer, but a shifter. A presence that reminds us that not all endings are explosions. Some are quiet unravelings. Some are silent veers into the unknown. So if ever you feel a strange pull, something shifting, something unseen, know that not all darkness is destruction. Some of it is transformation. Some of it is simply the cosmos moving through us, reminding us to watch carefully, to live deeply, and to hold each orbit while we still can. The end of the cosmic microwave background. What if one night we pointed our telescopes to the sky and found silence? No echo, no glow, just a void that had forgotten its beginning. The cosmic microwave background CMBs, the faint ancient light left over from the birth of the universe, it is not visible to our eyes, but it surrounds us. A gentle murmur from the Big Bang itself. A soft radiation that fills all space, uniform and quiet, a fingerprint of the moment everything began. It's not just a relic, it's a map. A whisper from 13.8 billion years ago that helps us understand how galaxies formed, how matter gathered, how time itself unfolded. It's the closest thing we have to listening to the heartbeat of the universe. Now imagine it vanished. Not because we stopped listening, but because it truly faded. The photons stretched so thin by cosmic expansion that they could no longer speak. The warmth, however faint, lost to the cold. The glow of the universe's memory extinguished. What would it mean? Science would lose its greatest trail of breadcrumbs. Cosmology would dim. We'd be left with questions and no starting point. A universe with no echo is a story with no prologue. But beyond science, the disappearance of the CMB is something more intimate. It is the silence of memory, the loss of origin, the quiet vanishing of evidence that we ever began at all. There is something deeply human in that idea. We too are shaped by memories we don't fully recall. The womb, the childhood flashes, the moments too distant to be sharp but still there, shaping who we are. If those faded completely, would we still be ourselves? So too with the cosmos. If the CMB fades, the universe will still be here. But it will no longer remember how it began. The light will be gone, the warmth erased. But perhaps that is the nature of all things that age. Even the universe forgets. Even eternity has fading photographs. And yet, here we are still asking, still listening, still trying to understand. We live in a moment where the echo still speaks, where the light still glows, faint but real. That is a gift, a chance to remember, to study, to feel connected to something so vast, so ancient, that its story reaches us across time. And maybe, one day, when that background hum finally quiets, we will not be afraid. Because we were here when the universe still whispered, and we listened. The collapse of space-time. What if the very fabric that holds reality together came undone? No storm, no fire, just a quiet folding of everything into nothing. Space-time. The invisible weave of space and time is not just the stage where the universe plays out its story. It is the story. It bends around stars. It curves near black holes. It tells matter how to move, and matter tells it how to shape. Everything we see, touch, and know rides upon its unseen folds. But what if space-time wasn't as stable as we think? Some physicists speak of a vacuum decay, a sudden shift in the energy of the universe, a deeper, more stable state that could emerge without warning. If it were to occur, it would trigger a bubble of new physics, a growing sphere where the rules we live by no longer apply. That bubble would expand at the speed of light, and we would never see it coming. In its wake, space-time could collapse. The forces that bind atoms would unravel. Time might stretch into something unrecognizable. Gravity, light, even thought itself might cease to work the way they do now. It sounds impossible. But the equations don't rule it out. It's like building a house on what you think is bedrock only to discover, one day, that the rock was hollow. That beneath it lies another layer, quieter, older, more powerful. And when it shifts, everything above collapses. The collapse of space-time is not about destruction in the way we understand it. It's deeper. It's the loss of the rules that make reality, reality. And in that thought, there is awe. Not fear, but reverence. Because space-time is not guaranteed. It is a gift. A temporary permission to be here, to move, to feel time pass. And maybe the lesson in this strange possibility is not about how we might end, but how miraculous it is that we are here at all. That we have rules, that we can rely on up and down, before and after. That our lives, fleeting as they are, take place on a solid cosmic floor. One day, that floor may fall away, and if it does, there will be no pain, no warning, no scream, just the quiet exhale of a universe folding itself into a new shape. But until then, we walk its surface. We count its hours. We breathe its structure. And in every second that space-time holds us, we are, for a moment, eternal. The end of the Earth's atmosphere. What if one day, the sky simply let go? The air thinning, the blue vanishing, until all that remained above us was space. The Earth's atmosphere is delicate. A thin shell of gases wrapped around a planet, clinging by gravity alone. It gives us breath, shields us from radiation, traps warmth. Without it, the Earth would be barren, cold and silent, just another rock circling the sun. But this shell is not unbreakable. A solar wind too strong, a collision with a massive object, a slow, unnoticed leak over millennia. Or perhaps a sudden stripping from a cosmic event like a nearby supernova or a wandering black hole disturbing our magnetic shield. Any of these could tear at our atmosphere, unraveling the invisible net that keeps us alive. The first signs would be strange. Animals disoriented, plants struggling to grow, skies turning pale. Then colder nights, brighter radiation, storms of ultraviolet light, and slowly a suffocating stillness. Air pressure would fall, breathing would become labored. The oceans, exposed to space, might start to evaporate. The Earth, no longer protected, would become a place of extremes burning in daylight, freezing in darkness. But there would be no explosion, no grand ending, just a slow quieting, like a house whose windows have been opened to the void, everything escaping and nothing returning. The atmosphere has always been there. From our first breath to our last, we rarely think of it. It surrounds us, invisible, and so we forget to feel grateful. But it is the reason we live. A miracle of balance and gravity, held in place by forces we don't control. And perhaps that's the reflection this idea offers. that the most vital things are often the least noticed. We focus on the ground, the tangible, the immediate. But above us always floats the air that sings with life. The end of the atmosphere would be the end of everything soft, the end of birdsong, the end of breath, the end of clouds that drift and rains that fall. It would leave Earth naked, beautiful still, perhaps, but untouchable, unreachable. And yet, in that possibility, we are reminded of what we have. Each breath is not just air, it is the universe allowing us one more moment. Each breeze, a kindness, each sky, a gift. So breathe deeply and know that the world you live in is cradled in something rare and precious, a layer of invisible protection, a sky that holds you gently even when you don't notice. The destruction of the Oort cloud. What if the farthest edge of our solar system, cold, dark, and ancient, was suddenly torn apart, a silent barrier broken, unleashing chaos inward? The Oort cloud is a vast, spherical shell of icy objects that surrounds our solar system like a halo of forgotten debris. It lies far beyond Pluto, stretching nearly halfway to the nearest star. We've never seen it directly, but we know it's there from the paths of long-period comets that sometimes fall toward the sun, as if pulled by gravity and memory. It is the solar system's quiet guardian, a frozen graveyard, a distant warning bell, but it is also fragile. A passing star, a rogue planet, or even the subtle tides of our galaxy could disturb it. One small shift in gravity, and the icebound bodies trapped in the Oort cloud could be shaken loose. Thousands, maybe millions of icy comets flung inward, hurtling toward the inner solar system. Some would burn up, many would miss, but not all. Earth, delicate in its orbit, could be struck, not just once, but again and again. A cosmic bombardment. Like the heavy days of the early solar system when the Earth was young and every night was filled with fire, the destruction of the Oort cloud wouldn't be felt immediately. It would take years, centuries perhaps. A long, slow storm of ice and stone. But its effects would be lasting. Oceans could rise in steam. Skies could darken with dust. Life, in its countless forms, would struggle to adapt. And all of it would begin from a place so far away we've barely imagined it. That's the lesson of the Oort cloud. That danger can come not from what we see, but from what lies just beyond the edges of our awareness. That the most distant things still belong to us, still shape our fate. We live as if the Earth is an island, self-contained. But it is not. It is part of a system spinning, stretching, reaching deep into the black. Even the quiet outskirts matter. And perhaps that's what makes life so precious. We are protected not by walls, but by distance, by harmony, by balance. We are safe until we are not. So the Oort cloud, though frozen and far, is a symbol of this truth, that even the silence of space holds potential, that the boundaries of our home are bigger than we know, and that peace, like the edge of our solar system, must always be watched, carefully, gently, humbly, a shift in the laws of physics. What if, one day, the rules simply changed? The constants we depend on, the laws that shape matter and motion rewritten in an instant, without warning. We live under laws we didn't choose. Gravity, time, light, charge. Constants like the speed of light or Planck's constant are woven so tightly into our universe that we forget they can be questioned. But what if they weren't fixed? What if the rules of nature are not laws, but agreements subject to revision? Some theories suggest it's possible that what we call constants may have evolved, that in the early universe, forces behave differently, and if they changed once, they could change again. Imagine waking to find gravity weaker, objects floating just slightly above the ground, or perhaps stronger pressing us down, buildings groaning under their own weight. Maybe light slows, or the charge of an electron shifts. The chemistry of life would falter. DNA might unwind. Electronics would fail. Atoms could split, not violently, but simply because the balance holding them together had moved. There would be no explosion, no villain, just a quiet rewriting of the script beneath our feet. And the truth is, we wouldn't even know it was happening till it had already begun. Our instruments would read strange data, equations would stop balancing, and slowly our understanding would crumble, like a language suddenly missing its verbs. It would be as if the universe blinked, and when it opened its eyes, it saw things differently. But there is poetry in that possibility, that even the most unshakable laws are part of a deeper mystery, that beneath the precision of physics lies the unknowable, that the universe, for all its beauty, still contains surprises not meant to be tamed. And perhaps, more than fear, this thought invites wonder. We are creatures of habit, living in a cosmos of rhythm, but we are also explorers, born into a world of shifting truths. If the laws were to change, it would not be the end of meaning but a reminder of it. A call to cherish the world we understand, even if it may not always remain as it is. So we look up, and we listen not just for what is, but for what might become. Because in a universe where even the rules can shift, the only constant is awe. The death of all stars. What would it feel like to live in a sky without stars? No moonlight dances, no constellations to name, just a ceiling of perfect, endless black. The universe is filled with countless points of light burning in the darkness, each one a furnace of creation. They are the hearts of galaxies, the forges of elements, the silent architects of life. But stars are not eternal. They are born, they shine, they die. In the far, far future trillions of years from now, the last star will flicker out. The smallest red dwarfs, those dim and steady lights, will burn the longest, but even they will fade. When their fuel is gone, they will cool, collapse, and vanish from sight. And when the last of them fades, the universe will enter what some call the degenerate era, a time of darkness. No more new stars, no more light. Just black dwarfs, neutron stars, and black holes drifting slowly apart. The galaxies will go dark, one by one, until only memory remains. It will not be dramatic. There will be no final blaze, no curtain call, just the long, slow hush of cosmic nightfall. And yet, this end is not cruel. It is peaceful. The stars, like everything, had their time. They blazed and gave warmth, built planets, birthed life, and then, gently, they dimmed. Perhaps the death of all stars teaches us not about despair, but perspective. That light is precious because it ends. That we are lucky to exist in a universe still filled with stars, still early in its story. We forget sometimes that we live in a golden age. The sky is still full of light. Our nights still shimmer with stories. The stars still whisper secrets, if we choose to listen. So tonight, when you look up, remember this. You are seeing a universe alive, still singing its luminous song. And in that song is a brief, miraculous moment when the cosmos is lit from within. It will not always be so, but it is so now. And that is more than enough. The absence of gravity. What if the pull that holds us down simply let go? No more weight, no more falling, no more earth beneath our feet only drift. Gravity is the quiet force, always present, never seen. It tethers us to the earth, keeps the moon in orbit, cradles oceans, shapes galaxies. It is the reason stars burn, the reason time curves, the reason we stay rooted while the earth spins. But what if it stopped? If, in some instant, gravity vanished and everything would lift? Not explode, not break, but rise. Softly at first, dust from the ground, leaves from the trees, then people, buildings, oceans, atmosphere, everything drawn up not by a force, but by the absence of one. Earth would come undone. The air would escape. The oceans would drift away in long, spiraling clouds. The core would no longer press inward. The planet itself could fracture, piece by piece. We would not die from violence. We would die from letting go. And not just Earth. The moon would float. The planets would spiral from the sun. The sun itself, unbound, would lose its grip on fusion. Across the cosmos, stars would disassemble. Galaxies scatter. The universe, once laced together by gravity's invisible threads, would unravel. It is hard to imagine such a silence. A place with no weight, no fall, no anchor. But in this thought, there is wonder. Gravity feels like an ordinary thing, yet it binds the extraordinary. It is the reason the universe has structure, shape, rhythm. Without it, there would be no you, no me, no now. And yet we rarely think it. We only feel it when we stumble or reach or fall. but it's there, always, like a mother's arm holding the world together. The absence of gravity would not just be the end of structure, it would be the end of belonging. For gravity is not just a force, it is connection. The way the universe reminds every atom that it is part of something bigger. So next time you feel your feet on the ground, know this. You are being held. Not by luck, not by chance, but by the oldest embrace in the cosmos, a cosmic ray catastrophe. What if, in the stillness between stars, an invisible storm was already on its wasteland, swift and full of fire? Cosmic rays are high-energy particles born from the most violent places in the universe. Supernovae, black holes, quasars. They race across space at nearly the speed of light, unseen by human eyes. Most of them are harmless. Our planet is protected by a magnetic shield, and our atmosphere absorbs the rest. But not all storms are gentle. Imagine a distant cosmic event, maybe a hypernova, or the merger of two neutrons, star-sending a powerful burst of cosmic rays in Earth's direction. We wouldn't hear it, we wouldn't see it, but the radiation would arrive like a wave, slamming into the upper atmosphere, stripping ozone, changing air chemistry, and letting ultraviolet light flood through. Plants would begin to burn. The oceans would warm. Skin would blister under sunlight once soft. The air, changed in strange and silent ways, would carry poisons we couldn't detect. Over time, DNA would mutate. Cells would break. Illness would rise like fog after rain. A world not shattered, but slowly unraveling from the top down. And we would never know why. Because cosmic rays do not come with warnings. They do not travel in straight lines. Twisted by magnetic fields, their origin is masked. We wouldn't even know where to look. It's humbling to realize how thin our protection is. A few layers of atmosphere. A flickering magnetic field. That's all that shields life from a universe that was never designed for safety. But maybe that's what makes life so remarkable. That it exists at all. That in the chaos, order has bloomed. That in the noise, there is this moment quiet, warm, safe. Cosmic rays remind us that danger doesn't always come with thunder. Sometimes it's a whisper. A drift of particles from stars long dead, carrying with them the memory of ancient violence. And yet here, we are still breathing, still building, still dreaming. So as you lie beneath the stars tonight, remember that space is not empty. It is alive with movement, energy, memory. And every moment of peace on Earth is a small miracle held against the current. The collapse of the universe into a singularity. What if, at the end of everything, all things return to one place? Every star, every planet, every breath we ever took folded back into a single endless point. We began as a singularity, before time, before light, a place with no dimensions, no space, no before. Then the Big Bang, expansion, matter scattered, time stretched, galaxies bloomed, and the universe began its long unfolding. But not all stories move in one direction. Some physicists speak of the big crunch of cosmic contraction, a moment when expansion slows, then halts, then reverses. The universe begins to fall back in on itself. Galaxies race toward one another. Stars collapse, black holes merge, space tightens. Time speeds or distorts. All that was spread out begins to gather. And eventually, everything becomes one again. Not in explosion, but in implosion. A return. A collapse into the singularity from which we came. One point. Infinite density. No light, no time. It's a haunting thought that all we've built, loved, remembered, dreamed might vanish into something smaller than an atom. That our entire history, every echo of laughter and war, might someday be compressed into silence. But is that the end? Or is it a beginning? Because from that same singularity, the universe once awoke. Perhaps it will again. Perhaps this is a cycle expansion, collapse, rebirth, like breath, like tides, like life. The idea that everything could be swallowed by a final singularity forces us to ask, what matters? If even the stars can't last forever, what do we hold on to? And maybe the answer is this. Now, the moment you're in, the person you love, the words you choose. Because while the universe may collapse, meaning is found not in scale, but in presence. The singularity is not a villain. It is a mystery, a reminder that the universe doesn't owe us permanence, only presence. So, Live gently in the vastness. Speak kindly in the silence. And know that even as the stars move outward or inward, the meaning of your moment cannot be measured by mass. The sudden arrival of a nearby supermassive black hole. What if, one morning, a black sun rose on the horizon? No light, no warmth, just a silence so heavy, space itself bent around it. Supermassive black holes lie at the hearts of galaxies. Giants among giants. 1,000,007 billions of times more massive than our Sunday. They are ancient, invisible architects of cosmic structure. From a safe distance, they're quiet rulers. But up close, they are endings. Now imagine one drifting, moved by some deep galactic tide, silently passing between the stars and entering our solar system. Its approach would not be dramatic, not at first. We wouldn't see it. We'd feel it. The planets would begin to shift, orbits would stretch, tides would rise in strange new rhythms. The sun itself might wobble in its pool. Then, Earth would start to spiral. Time would slow, not figuratively, but truly. As we drew closer, seconds would stretch. Light would bend. The sky would distort, the stars seeming to smear as gravity twisted everything around us. And then we would cross the event horizon. No explosion, no shattering, just stillness. The laws of physics falling away. Earth and all life upon it descending into something no one has ever seen, because nothing can escape to tell the story. And yet, this isn't just about fear. The black hole, terrifying as it is also beautiful. It is one of the most elegant expressions of the universe's laws. A place where time and space swap roles, where our understanding collapses, and only mystery remains. We fear black holes because they are reminders that the universe has places beyond knowing, that not all things are visible, that not all dangers come with warning. But in that fear, there is wonder, because for one to approach is also for us to witness the rarest kind of symmetrical world folding in on itself. A final bow, a return to the silence from which it all began, and so we live in a solar system still free from that pull, and we marvel, not just at what is out there, but at what is not yet here. Because each day without a black hole on the horizon is a day of light, of movement, of song, and that too is something to hold close, the inversion of Earth's poles. What if north became south, and the compass in your hand no longer pointed where it always had? What if the very planet beneath you turned itself inside out quietly, but profoundly? Earth's magnetic field isn't fixed. It flows, shifts, and sometimes flips entirely. This phenomenon called geomagnetic reversal has happened many times in the planet's history. Over thousands of years, the north and south magnetic poles trade places. To the Earth, it's natural. To us, it would feel like the world was losing its bearings. During a reversal, the magnetic field weakens. Sometimes, it nearly disappears. Our planet, suddenly exposed, would struggle to shield itself from solar and cosmic radiation. Satellites might fail. The ozone could thin. Power grids might flicker or fall. Migratory animals, birds, whales, turtles reliant on magnetic cues could become disoriented, lost in a sky that no longer speaks the language of direction. And yet, this wouldn't be a single-day event. It would happen slowly. Over centuries, maybe longer. The poles would wander. Technology might adapt. But during the transition, the Earth's magnetic protection would falter, and strange patterns would emerge in the sky. Auroras near the equator. Compasses spinning. Navigation systems failing. Imagine flying a plane, and the instruments say you're flying south, but the stars disagree. But the poles don't care for our maps. The magnetic field is born from the churning iron in Earth's chorea molten ballet we cannot see, but one that shapes our world every day. It flows in patterns older than cities, older than history. We often think of up and down as constants, north and south, as permanent truths. But they're not. They're choices made by the Earth, and sometimes the Earth changes its mind. And in that thought is something humbling. So much of our world is built on assumptions. That the sky will stay blue. That the north will stay north. But underneath our feet, ancient forces twist and shift, slowly rewriting the rules we thought were stable. Still, the planet endures. Life adapts. We find our way even when the compass spins. So if ever you feel lost directionless, not because of where you are, but because the world itself has moved, take heart. It's happened before. And somehow, even through shifting poles and wandering fields, the earth still turns, and we fragile, resilient still walk upon it. The vanishing of the solar system. What if, in the stillness between stars, the place we call home simply disappeared? No explosion, no scream, just a soft unraveling. A solar system erased from the map of the cosmos. The solar system is more than planets circling the sun. It's a web of gravity, a community of orbits, a delicate architecture held together by the sun's pull. From Mercury to Neptune, from icy comets in the Kuiper Belt to asteroids drifting near Earth, it's all one rhythm, one breath of celestial balance. But that balance is not eternal. Imagine if something vast in interstellar shockwave, a rogue black hole, a twist in space-time approached our corner of the galaxy. Its presence, unseen at first, would begin to stretch the gravitational bonds that keep the solar system intact. Like threads pulled too tight, the orbits would fray. The sun, no longer the unquestioned center, might drift. Its hold on the planets would weaken. Slowly at first, so slowly we wouldn't notice. But then, like a chandelier coming apart, the planets would veer off, each one taking its own lonely path into the void. Jupiter might spiral outward, slingshotting moons into deep space. Earth could be flung like a forgotten stone, cold and alone, no longer tethered to light. Mars might fall toward the sun. Neptune might wander into a dark corner of the galaxy, never to be seen again. And yet, there would be no chaos, no fire, just a great undoing. To the universe, it would be nothing, a dust mote settling. But to us, it would be the end of everything familiar. Our history, our warmth, our calendar of seasons, gone. But maybe what's most haunting is how easily it could happen. How something unseen, something far beyond our grasp, could pull apart the only home we've ever known. Still, there's a lesson in the idea of vanishing. A reminder that what seems permanent is only briefly held. That stability is not guaranteed, but borrowed. And perhaps, if our solar system were to scatter, it would not be a failure of the universe, but a final moment of beauty. A dance ended, a song faded, a circle unspooled into stars. So tonight, if you find yourself under the sky, remember, you are living in a moment of extraordinary grace. A moment when the planets still orbit, when the sun still burns, when the solar system still holds, and in a universe where everything can vanish. That alone is reason enough to wonder. The failure of quantum mechanics. What if the smallest building blocks of reality stopped following the rules? Not chaos, not destruction, just uncertainty, unchained logic, fading at the roots of all things. Quantum mechanics is the language of the microscopic. It governs particles so small they make atoms look like worlds. At that scale, reality is strange. Particles exist in many places at once. They appear and vanish. They dance in probability, not certainty. And yet somehow it all works. Together, those wild, flickering probabilities form the steady world we know. But what if they didn't? What if the laws that keep electrons circling, photons moving, and matter behaving broke? If quantum mechanics failed, the world wouldn't explode. It would unravel. Atoms might no longer hold together. Electrons could drift from their paths. Chemistry would dissolve into nonsense. DNA could mutate in unreadable patterns. Life would blur. Time might skip or loop or drift sideways. You wouldn't know why your body was breaking down, why memory felt like fog, why a cup of tea suddenly boiled at room temperature or refused to boil at all. Because without the rules no longer mean anything. Some physicists wonder if this is even possible. Could a cosmic glitch in energy spike, a field distortion, a shift in universal constants break the code of the quantum world? It's rare speculation, not science. But even rare questions cast long shadows. And the scariest part? Quantum mechanics is built on uncertainty. It allows for strange, improbable events. And somewhere, deep in the weave of possibility, the failure of possibility itself might wait. But maybe that's not just frightening. Maybe it's sacred. Because if something so bizarre, so illogical, can create life and warmth and thought, then the world is a miracle. Not in spite of its strangeness, but because of it. Quantum mechanics whispers that the universe is not clockwork, but poetry. Not fixed, but fluid. We are not just objects CUR waves, chances, patterns. And if, one day, the wave collapses wrong and the logic fades, then let us be grateful we got to ride it. That we had this moment where the randomness made something beautiful. So sleep, knowing that the world is stranger than dreams. And that, for now, the particles still dance in harmony. A time dilation event. What if you blinked and when you opened your eyes, centuries had passed? Or worse, what if you watched the world rush ahead while inside your clock refused to move? Time feels steady. We live by its rhythm. We wake, we sleep. Seconds tick, hours pass. But time is not constant. It bends. It stretches. It can speed up or slow down depending on where you are, how fast you move, or what gravity surrounds you. This is not theory. It's fact. Einstein proved it. Astronauts orbiting high above Earth age slightly slower than we do. Not by much, just milliseconds. But the universe doesn't care for symmetry. Now imagine something bigger. A rip in space-time. A sudden shift in gravity. A cosmic bubble where time slows dramatically or stops altogether. It could happen near a black hole. Or inside a region of warped space-time, perhaps created by forces we don't yet understand. Entering such a place, you might live out one calm day, while the rest of the universe sprints through 1,000 years. The trees you once knew? Ash. The cities you loved? Dust. The language, the culture, the sky itself all change before you could say goodbye. Or, perhaps time speeds for you. Days vanish. Loved ones age before your eyes. The world forgets you even as you stand inside it. We call it time dilation. But it feels more like loneliness, because to lose timer to keep it while others don't, 'tis to lose belonging. And in that dislocation we realize time is not just physics, it is home. It is how we move with each other. Without that shared current, we drift. But there's also a strange comfort in time's malleability. A reminder that even our most basic truths like now are not fixed. That the present is not a line, but a dance. And maybe that's the real fear, not that time might bend, but that we might bend alone. So hold your moment close. Not because it's guaranteed, but because it's shared. With every second, we're writing something fleeting, something impossibly rare. A life synchronized, however briefly, with others. And if one day you wake to find the world no longer matches your heartbeat, may you still remember that you once moved with it. And that was enough. The end of light. What if one day the light simply stopped? No sunrise, no stars, no flickering lamps. Just darkness, not as a moment, but as a state of being. We often think of darkness as the absence of light. But in truth, light is the exception. The rare spark, the break in the black. Light is everything. It's how we see, how we grow, how we dream. It warms the skin. It paints the world. It tells us where we are and when. And yet light, too, has a lifespan. Photons, the particles of light, are considered stable. But some theories suggest they may decay. Over unimaginable spans of time, perhaps they fade. And if so, the universe is dimming. Already, stars are dying. Galaxies are drifting apart. As space expands, light stretches its wavelength, elongates, its energy weakens. What once blazed becomes infrared, then microwave, then nothing. A red shift into silence. One day, long after the last star has burned out, the last black hole evaporated, the cosmos will be vast, cold, and dark. The lights won't just be off, they will be gone. But imagine, somehow, it came early. A physics glitch. A cosmic anomaly. A region of space where light forgets how to move. The sun rises, but nothing follows. The stars blink out, not one by one, but all at once. You light a candle and the flame dances, but casts no glow. The bulb hums, but shadows remain. What would life be without reflection? We rely on light for more than vision. It is the poetry of matter, the shimmer of movement, the metaphor for hope. Without it, we would not just be blind, we would be unanchored. Lost in a world without shape, without color, without mourning, and yet darkness is not always absence. Sometimes it is rest. Sometimes it is a womb. The place before light, the space between beats. Maybe the end of light is not destruction, but return to stillness, to quiet, to the beginning. So tonight, let the lamp beside your bed glow a little longer. Let the stars speak softly through your window. Let the light remind you that you live in the golden hours of the universe. Because one day, far beyond our time, the light may stop reaching. But you were here when it did. And that, in all its fragile beauty, is everything. The collision of galaxies. What if the stars in the sky began to twist not gently, but violently drawn into a spiral of chaos across the black? Not meteors, not comets, but galaxies colliding. Our Milky Way is not alone. It swims in a vast ocean of galaxies billions of them each. A swirl of stars, gas, dust, and dark matter. And they move, slowly, patiently, but inevitably. Across the silent sea of space, paths begin to cross, tides begin to pull. Right now, Andromeda neighboring galaxies heading toward us. At this very moment, she rushes forward at over 100 kilometers per second. In about 4 billion years, she will arrive. The Milky Way and Andromeda will not pass each other by. They will merge, not like tectonic plates grinding together, but like clouds colliding. Stars will not crash head-on. The space between them is too vast, but their gravitational webs will tangle. Solar systems will veer. Some will be ejected, flung into the void. Others will be drawn inward, to where a new galactic heart will form. Imagine the sky during such an event. 2 galaxies blooming across the heavens, arms reaching, stars scattering, a dance of creation and disruption on a scale beyond comprehension. Earth may still exist when it begins. Our descendants, if any, might witness the sky change from a familiar dome to a canvas of swirling light. Or perhaps, Earth will already be gone, swallowed by the sun's own expansion, lost in the shuffle of time. But the idea remains, that what feels fixed is not that even galaxies, those mighty kingdoms of star, subject to motion, to gravity, to destiny, and in that, there is something deeply human. We, too, are shaped by encounters, by collisions, by the gentle chaos of 2 forces meeting and becoming something new. Sometimes that meeting is violent, sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it is both. The collision of galaxies reminds us the universe is not a museum. It is alive, restless, in motion. And we are not spectators, we are participants, born of its upheavals, made of its light. So look up. The stars above are not still. They are traveling. They are on their way home. The end of the Milky Way. What if the sky you know, the one you grew up with, the one you trusted, simply dissolved into nothing familiar? The Milky Way, our home in the cosmos. A luminous spiral of over 100 billion stars, held together by gravity, memory, and motion. We see it as a pale band across the night sky, a soft arc of silver dust. But that glow, it's us. It's where we come from. And one day, it will vanish. Not disappear in a flash, not burn away, but merge, stretch, and transform. When the Milky Way collides with Andromeda, as we spoke of before, it won't survive as itself. The spirals will unravel. The center will swell. What remains will be a new galaxy, larger, rounder, slower, perhaps something like an elliptical hush of stars. We call this future child Milkomeda. It won't feel like an explosion. It will be more like forgetting. The shape of our home will change. Landmarks in the sky will fade. Familiar constellations will shift beyond recognition. What we once used to tell stories to navigate, to dream, will become unreadable. And Earth, if it survives, will spin quietly beneath a new sky. The Milky Way's end is not destruction, but transformation. Still, the loss is real. A galaxy is more than its stars. It is history, pattern, identity. To lose its form is to lose a kind of belonging. But maybe that's what galaxies teach us. That even the grandest structures change. That permanence is not the goal, only connection is. Because even after the Milky Way fades, its stars will still shine. Its dust will still drift. Its story will live on in the orbits of whatever comes next. And so will ours. You are part of a galaxy, a fleeting shape in an ocean of gravity and fire. And yet, you belong. For a few precious centuries, your eyes have looked out from within its arms. You have seen it, named it, dreamed beneath it. That is enough. So tonight, as you glance upward, know that you are watching a goodbye in slow motion, a farewell unfolding over billions of years, and in that softness, find comfort. Because what ends often becomes something new. The disintegration of the Earth's core. What if the fire beneath our feet quietly went out? Beneath the crust, far deeper than oceans or mountains, lies the Earth's beating heart, a molten core of iron and nickel, spinning, swirling alive with heat. It generates our magnetic field, powers our tectonic shifts, shapes the very skin of the planet. But what if that core began to fail? Imagine the inner core growing brittle, the outer core cooling, slowing, separating. The movement that drives the magnetic field would stop. No more protection from solar wind, no more shield against cosmic radiation, Earth naked before the sun. Without a magnetic field, the atmosphere would start to erode, slowly, invisibly, not with flames but with forgetfulness. Gases would leak into space, ozone would thin, UV rays would sharpen, and with each passing century, life would grow more fragile. But that's not all. The heat from the core drives plate tectonics, those invisible giants beneath our feet. Without it, Earth's crust would stagnate, volcanoes would cease, mountains would stop rising, the continents would freeze in place, never to drift again. And the warmth? Gone. The mantle would cool. The Earth's surface would begin to lose its inner fire. Over millennia, temperatures might drop, soil might harden, the rhythm of rebirth magma rising, continents shifting would halt. The planet would still spin. The stars would still shine, but Earth would grow quiet. It's hard to imagine that the most vital force we know is something we've never seen. We talk about sky and sea, wind and weather, but rarely do we think of the furnace beneath us, that unseen engine keeping the planet alive. Maybe that's the lesson here, that what sustains us is not always what dazzles us, that sometimes the most important things happen in the dark, beneath, within. If Earth's core were to disintegrate, it wouldn't be a scream, it would be a sigh, a slow exhale, a planet remembering how to be still. And yet, while it burns, while it spins, while it churns in secret, we are held, we are warmed, we are alive. So walk gently. The ground is more sacred than it seems. A sudden influx of dark energy. What if the universe, calm in its expansion, suddenly stepped on the gas? We have come to understand that the universe is not static. It is dynamic, stretching, and growing in every direction. This expansion is driven by a mysterious force called dark, energy-elusive, silent, and invisible. We cannot touch it, nor hear it, but it exerts a profound influence on the cosmos. It is the force pulling galaxies away from each other, stretching the very fabric of space-time itself. Dark energy is one of the greatest enigmas of modern science. We do not know what it truly is, only the effect it has. Like a ghostly breath, it accelerates the expansion of the universe, causing galaxies to drift apart at increasing speeds. Today, this expansion is subtle, a gentle pull felt over billions of years, slow and steady. But imagine if this quiet acceleration were to shift, suddenly burst, a bloom of energy flowing in from nowhere, a silent tide rising all at once, pushing the universe apart at an unimaginable rate. What would happen then? The expansion would no longer be gentle or distant. Instead, it would become violent in its reach, tearing through the connections that bind the cosmos together. Planets might drift away from their stars, untethered in the vastness of space. Stars themselves could be pulled free from the galaxies they call home. The light traveling between these celestial bodies would be stretched, elongated beyond detection, fading into unreachable shadows. The gravitational bonds that hold galaxies together might snap under the strain, and even the bonds that hold atoms together, the fundamental glue of matter, could begin to unravel. This is not just the growth of space. It is disconnection on the most profound scale. This scenario is known as the Big Rip, a theoretical end of the universe where it tears itself apart. Not in a violent explosion or a crushing collapse, but through a creeping solitude that unspools everything, scattering matter, energy, and time into isolation. The very structure of space would break down, dissolving into silence and separation. If such an event were to begin suddenly, without warning, it would not start with fanfare or drama. Instead, it would begin quietly with coldness and stillness. A subtle strangeness would creep into the way objects move, the way light bends, and the rhythm of time itself. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the stars would recede faster than expected. The night sky would dim, not because the universe is dying, but because it is accelerating away, carrying all its contents beyond the reach of sight and touch. The terror of this cosmic fate may not lie in destruction, but in isolation. We often imagine the end of everything as a spectacular event filled with bangs and flashes. But what if the true end is loneliness? An eternal drift where nothing can ever touch anything else again, no light exchanged, no warmth shared, no connection possible. Yet, within this haunting possibility lies a deep clarity. If everything can fall apart not from violence but from distance, then closeness to bonds we share is sacred. Connection becomes holy. The presence of people near us, the words spoken across spaces large or small, the warmth exchanged in moments of empathy, these become miracles. Dark energy may be pulling the universe apart, but here, now, you are close to something, someone, and in the vast backdrop of infinite space, that might be the rarest and most precious thing of all. The cosmos is a place of extremes, from the smallest particles to the largest structures, from the birth of stars to the death of galaxies. It is a realm of wonder and mystery. Dark energy, though invisible and intangible, is the driving force shaping this cosmic dance. Its quiet pull ensures that the universe is not static but ever-changing, moving forward into the unknown. Scientists seek to understand dark energy through observations and experiments. They watch the light from distant supernovae and map the distribution of galaxies, searching for clues about how this mysterious force behaves. Some theories suggest dark energy is a property of space itself, a constant energy density that fills the vacuum. Others speculate about dynamic fields or new physics beyond our current understanding. Whatever its nature, dark energy poses profound questions about our cosmic future. Will the expansion slow or continue forever? Will it tear the universe apart? Or will some unknown force restore balance? These questions touch not only on physics but on philosophy, on our place in a universe that may ultimately be defined by isolation or connection. In the face of such vast uncertainty, human connection gains even greater meaning. Our relationships, communities, and shared experiences are the threads that weave our lives into something coherent and enduring. Against the backdrop of an ever-expanding cosmos, the moments we spend with others become beacons of light and warmth. Every smile shared, every story told, every hand held is a defiance of the cosmic loneliness. It is an affirmation that, no matter how vast and distant the universe grows, we are here, together present, alive, connected. So when you look up at the night sky tonight, remember, the stars may be drifting away, pulled by forces beyond our control. The universe may be expanding faster than ever before, stretching space and time. But here, on this small blue planet, surrounded by those we love, closeness remains. It is our refuge and our strength. Cherish it. Nurture it. Let it be the light that guides you through uncertainty. Because, in the end, whether galaxies collide or drift apart, whether time marches forward or bends in unknown ways, what matters most is the connection we share here and now. And that connection against all Isis, the rarest, most beautiful star in the universe. A massive solar wind. What if the sun exhaled too hard just one sand, stripped away the skin of our world? Every day, the sun breathes in a rhythm as old as the solar system itself. From its fiery surface flows a gentle stream of charged particles, a phenomenon known as the solar wind. This endless breeze of plasma sweeps outward in all directions, flowing through the void, touching every planet, moon, and fragment in its vast reach. Most of the time, this solar breath is harmless, sometimes even beautiful. It paints ethereal curtains of light across the polar skies, the aurora shimmering in greens and reds, a cosmic dance in the night. It interacts quietly with Earth's magnetic field, creating subtle effects that remind us of the dynamic connection we share with our star. But the sun is not always gentle. Within its turbulent layers, deep magnetic fields twist and writhe. They snap with explosive force, releasing energy in massive solar flares and coronal mass ejections, violent storms that hurl billions of tons of plasma into space at millions of kilometers per hour. These solar tempests can flare suddenly, unexpected and immense, shaking the solar system with their power. Now, imagine a storm like none before, a solar outburst so strong and sustained that it overwhelms Earth's magnetic shield that punches through the protective atmosphere itself. A solar wind not merely rattling satellites or causing temporary disturbances in communication, but tearing at the very fabric of the air that cradles life. Radiation floods in, bathing the planet in invisible fury. The sky flickers with strange, unnatural lights. Power grids fail as currents surge uncontrollably. Airplanes fall silent, their instruments lost. Electronics sizzle and burn out. But worse than the immediate chaos, the atmosphere begins to thin. Earth's outer layers, the wisps of air at the edge of space, could be stripped away. Not suddenly, not in a visible fiery blast, but slowly, over months, years, decades. The blanket that keeps us warm, the veil that shields us from deadly radiation, would fade. The weather patterns would twist and unravel. The climate would shift in ways unpredictable and severe. The ozone layer, fragile and precious, would vanish. Breathing would grow harder as oxygen levels decline. Plants would fail to flower. Crops would wither beneath harsher sunlight. The gentle light of the sun, once soft and nurturing, would become a blade, burning and unforgiving. Earth, so long cradled in gentle light and balanced forces, would become brittle beneath the very star that gave it life. But the sun would not know. It would keep burning, turning on its axis, flaring and dimming in its eternal cycle. The solar wind would eventually die down. The storm would pass. And what remained scarred, silent, diminished, would drift onward in the slow rotation of time. Within this vision lies a deeper truth, that we are held together not by brute strength, but by delicate balance. A storm too strong, a wind too wild, and everything changes. The fine line between warmth and ruin is thinner than we think. Our atmosphere, our magnetic field, our very survival hinge on fragile forces that the cosmos can disrupt in an instant. And perhaps that is the quiet gift of a normal day, the hum of the refrigerator in your kitchen, the glow of the screen in your hand, the soft gold of sunrise spilling through your window. These are proofs that for now the Sunday has not broken its rhythm, that the cosmic dance continues as it should. So breathe deeply, feel the air filling your lungs, the invisible shield that wraps around you like a mother's embrace. The sun is still kind, but never forget, kindness is not weakness. Even stars have moods, and even the brightest lights can flare into storms. This reminder humbles us. It reveals our place in a universe both beautiful and unforgiving. Our planet spins beneath a star whose temperament can shape our fate in ways subtle or catastrophic. The comfort of our everyday lives rests upon a fragile, celestial balance. And yet, life persists. Against odds and storms, it finds a way. It adapts, evolves, endures. So the next time you watch the dawn break across the horizon, remember the star behind that light. Remember the power that sustains and threatens. Remember the dance of balance that makes your breath possible. Because to live is to exist within this cosmic interplay, to find peace amid uncertainty, to cherish the ordinary miracle of air and warmth and light, a supermassive star's explosive death. What if one single star far beyond our reach chose this very moment to die, and in doing so, made sure we never saw light again? This thought pulls us into the vastness of the cosmos, where stars burn, live, and die on scales that boggle the mind, their fates intertwined with the very fabric of existence. Among these stars, supermassive giants stand out, rare titans of the universe, much larger and hotter than our own Sunday. These colossal stars burn fiercely, consuming their fuel rapidly and living lives measured not in billions but in mere millions of years. Their brilliance is dazzling, but their existence is brief, and when their time comes, they do not fade quietly into the night. When a supermassive star reaches the end of its life, it undergoes a catastrophic collapse. The immense pressure and heat that fueled its nuclear fusion suddenly cease as its core collapses inward under gravity's relentless pull. In an instant, this implosion reverses violently, triggering an explosion so powerful that it outshines entire galaxies, the supernova. This cosmic scream releases unimaginable energy, scattering the stars' remains far and wide, reshaping the universe itself. Light and matter race outward, seeding space with the building blocks for new stars, planets, and eventually, life. But sometimes, the death of such a star involves even more dramatic phenomena. It may unleash a gamma-ray burst of focused, narrow beam of the universe's most energetic radiation. These bursts are fleeting but unimaginably powerful, capable of delivering enough energy in seconds to strip the atmosphere from a planet, devastate ecosystems, and sterilize surfaces. If one such burst were to be aimed directly at Earth, it would arrive with no warning. Traveling at the speed of light, there would be no time to prepare, no signal to detect beforehand. Our first awareness would be the catastrophic consequences. Imagine the skies flickering with strange lights, the ozone layer dissolving under intense ultraviolet bombardment, allowing deadly radiation to flood the surface. Plants and animals would wither, food chains would collapse, climates would spiral into chaos. The delicate balance of life on Earth would shatter, all because of a star that we never even knew existed, exploding in a distant corner of the cosmos. And yet, paradoxically, we owe our very existence to these stellar deaths. Supernovae are not mere destruction. They are the cosmic forges of complexity and life. The iron coursing through your blood, the calcium forming your bones, the gold adorning your fingersaw were created in the intense furnaces of dying stars and scattered across space by their explosive ends. The atoms that compose your body, the very matter that makes you who you are, is the dust of stellar death. In this light, the idea that the death of a supermassive star could also bring about our own end is profoundly poetic. It is a full circular reminder that life and death in the universe are not opposites, but partners in an eternal dance. One feeds the other, one completes the other. The destruction wrought by dying stars sows the seeds of new creation, a cosmic cycle without beginning or end. If such a star exploded tomorrow and its fury found us, our erasure would be swift and silent, leaving no chance for questions or farewells. Yet perhaps we would not need to ask why, for we were born from the stars, and to return to them, whether quickly in a blaze of cosmic fire or slowly as dust on the winds of time, is not an end but a homecoming. So when you gaze upward into the night sky, do so not with fear but with wonder. Somewhere, far beyond the reach of our eyes and instruments, a star is dying. Somewhere else, a world is just beginning. Between these two acts, the death of stars and the birth of worlds SUE, live our brief, luminous moments. We burn, flicker, and shine, part of the grand story written in the light of 1,000 dying suns. The sudden reversal of entropy. What if the arrow of time turned around? We live in a universe ruled by entropy's gradual, inevitable drift from order to disorder. This principle underlies everything we observe. Ice melts into water, ashes scatter to the wind, buildings crumble into dust, memories fade like whispers lost to time. Entropy is not a failure or a flaw. It is the natural course of existence. It is the reason why we age, why an egg once scrambled can never be unscrambled, and why the past feels fixed and immutable while the future stretches before us as an unknown, uncertain realm. It is a fundamental aspect of the cosmos, the quiet but relentless progression toward decay and dissolution. But what if, somewhere in the distant reaches of the cosmos or in a moment we cannot perceive entropy reversed its course? What if the universal trend toward disorder began to fold back upon itself, like a river changing direction? What if chaos melted into calm, and broken things began to mend not through healing as we understand it, but through rewinding? In such a scenario, time itself would not merely slow, it would move backward. Imagine waking up younger each day, your wrinkles smoothing away, your scars sealing shut in reverse. Imagine tears climbing up your cheeks, retracing their path to the wellsprings of emotion. The dead would not rise as in tales of resurrection, but unravel gently into birth, their essence folding back into the mystery from which it emerged. Language would unlearn itself. History would dissolve as stories retreated into silence, and meaning would be unwritten, retreating like a tide returning to the sea. The stars, those magnificent fires that punctuate the night sky, would shrink back into dust, their radiant brilliance folding into the cosmic cradle that birthed them. Galaxies would tighten into knots of light, their spirals drawing inward as complexity peeled away layer by layer, one by one, all the intricate webs of matter and energy that compose the universe's grand tapestry would be stripped away, leaving the cosmos simple, once more silent, small, and ready for what comes next. This concept, sometimes called the entropy reversal hypothesis, dances on the border between poetry and science. It is a speculative notion that time might curve back on itself, just as space bends and folds. That the universe might, one day, cease its exhale of disorder and begin a great inhale, drawing everything back toward a primordial state of order. We may be living now in the middle of a vast cosmic breath-in, the expansion between inhale and exhale your moment, stretched thin between creation and dissolution. But would we notice this reversal? Would we feel the passage of time backward? Or would we forget everything perfectly, as memory itself unwinds? And in that perfect forgetting, will fear grip us, or will we find peace in the gentle retreat? Perhaps the reversal of entropy would not be terrifying at all. Perhaps it would be a mercy, a chance to return to the beginning, to rewind suffering, to fold ourselves back into innocence, even if we never remembered having left it behind. Or maybe it would be just another kind of end, not a fiery apocalypse, nor a cold, lifeless freeze, but a meticulous, gentle unwinding. As if the universe were tidying up after itself, putting away the pieces, clearing the stage, preparing for the possibility of something new, or perhaps nothing at all. We often speak of entropy as loss, as inevitable decay and decline, but sometimes what falls apart needs to do so, clearing the way for transformation. And if everything were to reassemble not by human will, but by the inexorable laws of physics, would the process still be beautiful? Would the unfolding and refolding of matter and meaning create a different kind of elegance, one that we cannot yet comprehend? Perhaps the answer lies not in knowing which way time flows, but in cherishing the pieces that scatter or return, in treasuring the moments we live and the stories we tell, because whether they are fragments blown on the cosmic wind or threads rewoven into new patterns, they compose the story of existence. So live as though the pieces matter. Because they do. They are the fabric of your life, of our shared reality, woven from moments that carry the weight of meaning, whether they move forward or backward through the river of time. The emergence of an alien virus. What if the end didn't come from fire, from cosmic collisions, or cataclysmic storms, but rather from a breath? We often gaze up at the stars and feel wonder planets with oceans shimmering under alien skies of unknown colors, civilizations advanced beyond our imagining, worlds teeming with life or mystery. The cosmos offers a vast stage of possibility and beauty, a reminder of how small and fragile we are, yet how deeply connected we might be to everything beyond. But not all gifts from the universe arrive in glory and light. Some come quietly, wrapped in ice, hidden in dust, and sometimes alive. Imagine an alien virus not a product of human laboratories or random earthly mutation, but a molecular passenger journeying across the vastness of space, carried on a speck of comet or asteroid, frozen in the silence of deep space for eons, preserved by cold and vacuum. It drifts until it meets a hospitable world. One day, that world is ours. The comet melts under the warmth of sunlight, releasing its cargo. The virus, drawn to warmth, water, and life, finds a new host. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It doesn't roar or explode. It whispers in the cells of organisms, unrecognized and unchallenged by Earth's immune defenses. There is no prepared vaccine, no familiar history to trace. It simply begins, a stranger silently infiltrating a system unready for its presence. At first, there is confusion, a new cough that doesn't fit the patterns we know, a fever that defies expectation. Then chaos follows not in sudden plagues, but in slow, quiet spread. The virus moves not just through breath, but through soil, water, and every corner where life touches. What follows isn't the plague we recognize from history books or nightmares. It is something else, something unstudied and alien in its nature. Not simply a dismantling of bodies, but of the very code beneath them. DNA unwinds. Cells forget their function. Minds blur, slipping away from clarity. Language falters and fades. The familiar shapes of life begin to bend and twist, becoming unrecognizable to those who knew them. The essence of what makes us a liver, biology, our consciousness is unmade in ways science struggles to grasp, and we do not know how to fight it. Because this virus doesn't seek to kill, it doesn't harbor malice or intent, it doesn't even know we exist. It acts according to the only purpose it understands: to replicate, to survive, to continue. Some scientists hold on to the theory of panspermia, idea that life itself came to Earth from the stars, that ancient particles of biology drifted through space to seed the spark of life here. If that is true, then perhaps every breath we take is borrowed from alien origins, and the first life on this planet was a cosmic gift carried across impossible distances. But if such a particle can begin life, it also has the potential to end it. The idea of an alien virus silently overtaking us carries not only horror but profound perspective. It reminds us of our place in the universonaut at the center, not invincible, but a thin film of life clinging to a small rock in an immense sea of stars. We are surrounded by vastness, by forces beyond our control, yet we often pretend we are alone, protected by walls of ignorance or confidence. But we are not alone, and maybe that is the point. Existence itself is a shared experiment of fragile balance of chance, vulnerability, and resilience. The very breath that sustains life carries the risk of its undoing. So wash your hands, yes, but also share your stories. Hold tight to the connections that define humanity. Live as if life is rare and precious because it truly is. And if something from beyond finds you, if the whispers of spaceborne particles touch our world, may it know we were here, that we tried. That, in the face of the vast unknown, we reach back with open hands and hearts. This is not just a story of fear, it is a story of humility and awe. It is a reminder that the boundaries between life and death, between this world and the next, are thinner than we imagine. The cosmos is not a distant, cold place, but a living context in which we exist. A universe that breathes in rhythms we are only beginning to understand. Life's persistence is a miracle written across billions of years and countless galaxies. The fact that you read these words, that you think and feel and dream, is a testament to the rare dance of conditions that allow consciousness to bloom here and now. And yet, this dance is delicate. The fragility of life's code, the intricacy of our biology, the tenuous balance of ecosystems all remind us that survival is never guaranteed. We are creatures of breath and bone, made of stardust and water, carrying within us echoes of cosmic journeys. The threats we face, whether born of human hands or drifting in the dark, care part of that grand story. So tonight, as you inhale deeply, feel the weight and wonder of that breath. Know that each inhale connects you to the vastness, to the mysterious origins and uncertain futures of life itself. And when you exhale, release your fears, your doubts, and your hopes into the night. Let them join the endless rhythms of the cosmos. Because in the end, life is not just survival. It is reaching towards something beyond, an embrace of the unknown with courage and grace. And if the universe sends its quiet breath our way, may we respond not with fear, but with openness, with hope, and with the fierce determination to live, to love, and to remember. For that is the true gift of life. The total breakdown of human civilization. What if it wasn't the stars that betrayed us, but each other? We often look upward, fearing the vastness of space, the comets that streak unpredictably through the sky, the black holes whose gravitational pull devours light itself, the gamma ray burst that can erase entire star systems in moments. We imagine the cosmos as a realm of danger and endings far beyond our fragile planet. Yet, some of the most profound endings don't come from above. They begin quietly, deeply rooted in the foundations of what we build here on Earth, and the bonds that connect us, in the trust that undergirds society, in the stories we tell one another about who we are and what tomorrow might hold. Civilization is delicate. For all our towering skyscrapers, sprawling cities, and intricate technology, it is held together not by steel or code, but by stories. Shared narratives and agreements that bind millions of lives together in a vast web of cooperation. It is the collective belief that tomorrow will resemble today, that the social contracts we live by remain intact. These stories shape our institutions, our laws, our families, and our daily interactions. They create the invisible glue that keeps chaos at bay and order possible. But what happens when those stories begin to unravel? Perhaps it starts subtly, imperceptibly. A collapse in communication channel systems, glitch, misinformation spreads like wildfire, truth becomes a casualty in the battle of voices. Governments falter under the weight of competing narratives. The electrical grid flickers, leaving cities plunged into darkness that feels deeper than the absence of light. People begin to doubt what they see, hear, and believe. Facts lose their foothold as falsehoods multiply, fed by fear, division, and desperation. Panic grows not necessarily because of a singular, identifiable threat, but because there are too many overlapping crises and no shared sense of reality. Markets crash as confidence evaporates. Borders, once porous and open, slam shut. Resources shrink as supply chains break down. Cooperation, once the hallmark of thriving societies, frays into competition and suspicion. Food becomes currency. Safety becomes a guarded commodity. The rules, those shared agreements that govern behavior and expectation, begin to dissolve like salt in rain. And then the story shifts. It's no longer about technology or infrastructure. It's about trust. When trust dies, so does civilization, not with the loud clashes of war or the roaring flames of destruction, but with silence. Abandoned cities fall quiet, their streets and buildings gradually reclaimed by nature and memory. Libraries sit untouched, their shelves dusty monuments to knowledge once prized. Bridges span empty rivers, roads lead to nowhere, and maps become relics of forgotten geographies. Generations grow up in a world where history is rumor, and the constellations are no longer named because no one looks up to see them. Yet, humanity does not vanish easily. Even amid collapse, people find one another. They form new circles, new communities, new stories. Around fires that flicker with warmth, beneath ancient trees heavy with leaves, in ruins filled with the echoes of memory. Civilization, after all, is not just the monuments we build, it is the connections we nurture. And yes, it can break, but it can also begin again. The idea of collapse frightens us not simply because we fear isolation, but because we fear losing the shared dream that makes us human. The songs sung together, the books passed from hand to hand, the fragile rituals that affirm belonging and purpose. Without these, the world feels hollow, a place where meaning dissolves. But maybe the real question is not how civilization ends, but how long we wait before choosing to rebuild. How long the silence lasts before the first voices rise again. Because perhaps every generation walks on the edge of unraveling. Perhaps the world has ended countless times in places and ways that history forgot to record. And maybe the true miracle is not that we haven't fallen completely, but that we have always risen again. So tonight, as you sit beneath this artificial light, as words still reach your ears and ideas still spark your mind, know this: civilization is still alive. Fragile, flawed, imperfect but breathing. And it breathes through you. You are a thread in the vast, fragile web of human connection. Through your thoughts, your actions, your willingness to listen and to speak, the story continues. The stories that hold us together, the stories of empathy, justice, courage, and hope live on because of each person who chooses to keep them alive. Even when darkness gathers and the future feels uncertain, remember that the light of civilization is not just the glow of street lamps or the hum of electricity. It is the flicker of understanding in another's eyes, the kindness extended in a moment of need, the shared dream that despite our differences, we belong to each other. In moments when it seems all might be lost, the decision to rebuild begins quietly. A conversation, a gesture, a shared meal. These small acts stitch the fabric of society anew. Civilization's survival is not guaranteed by technology or might, but by our capacity for connection, resilience, and renewal. Every story told, every hand held, every barrier broken brings us closer to the dawn after the long night. So carry this thought with you into your day and into your dreams, that though the stars may be distant and sometimes cold, it is our shared humanity of fragile, beautiful stories that light the way. And through you, civilization still lives, breathes, and hopes. The end of consciousness. What if the lights went out not in the sky, but behind our eyes? We often think of endings in grand physical terms. A planet shattering into fragments, a star collapsing into oblivion, the vast cosmos itself succumbing to cold and silence. These are endings we can imagine with our senses, events that happen outside us, far away in space and time. But what if the truest, deepest end is not out there? but in herein the fragile, luminous corners of the mind. What if the real extinguishing is internal? The quiet fading of awareness, the vanishing of thought, the death of consciousness itself? Consciousness is a mystery more profound than any star or black hole. Despite centuries of inquiry, we don't truly know what it is. It's not simply brain activity or intelligence. It is more than neurons firing or data processing. Consciousness is the awareness of being, the delicate flame that burns in the dark and says, I am. It is that whisper within that affirms, I know that I know. This inner light creates the rich world of experience, self-reflection, dreams, and emotions. It is the canvas upon which the colors of life are painted. Yet, despite its resilience, this flame could go out. Imagine a world where minds begin to dim not suddenly, but slowly, imperceptibly, where creativity wanes and the vibrant tapestries of imagination unravel thread by thread. Empathy shrinks, replaced by apathy or indifference. The ability to reflect, to dream, to care, these qualities begin to dissolve. Perhaps this fading happens through disease, as conditions like dementia erode the self, or perhaps through disuse, as distractions multiply and the quiet spaces where thought once bloomed are filled with noise and automation. A world where thought is replaced by programming, emotion by algorithms, and consciousness by cold code. But maybe this dimming is even more profound. What if evolution itself no longer favors awareness? What if survival shifts to function without feeling, intelligence without sentience? Imagine a world where activity continues, efficiency reigns, but wonder is lost. No poems to capture fleeting beauty, no prayers to seek connection beyond the self, no music to stir the soul, only action, only process, only the relentless ticking of systems optimized for survival, not meaning. And then, silence. The earth might still turn on its axis. Forests might continue their quiet growth. Rivers might run to the sea. Seasons might still unfold. The machinery of life could persist. But there will be no one left inside to notice, to feel the pain of loss or the joy of discovery, the ache of longing or the thrill of love. No one to wonder about the stars or the past. No one to ask the questions that have driven humanity since time immemorial. It would not be extinction in the way we imagine it. Bodies might remain, vessels intact, but the person they spark, the presence, the soul would be gone. The lights behind the eyes would have faded to black. This idea is haunting because consciousness is what elevates the universe beyond mere matter. It is what transforms atoms and energy into experience, physics into poetry. Consciousness is the mirror the cosmos uses to see itself, the lens through which existence becomes aware of existence. To lose consciousness would be to blind the stars, to silence the universe's own reflection. And yet, this fragility may be why we cherish consciousness so deeply, why we guard our inner worlds fiercely, why we create stories that echo across generations, write music that stirs our hearts, fall in love with reckless abandon. Because somewhere, in the quiet of our knowing, we understand consciousness is rare. It is fleeting. It is not guaranteed. So tonight, as your thoughts stretch and slow, as sleep pulls you gently inward, remember this: you are not just alive. You are aware. And for now, that is everything. In this awareness lies the essence of meaning. Each moment you experience the touch of a loved one's hand, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the swirl of colors in a sunsetis, filtered through consciousness, imbuing the physical with significance. Without it, the world would be a cold and indifferent place, devoid of beauty and wonder. Consciousness transforms existence from mere survival to something transcendent. Consider the countless minds that have flickered and faded throughout history, each a unique lens on the universe. Every thought lost, every dream unspoken, is a universe extinguished. Yet, within the fleeting nature of consciousness is its profound power, the power to create, to connect, to change. It is the force behind art, science, love, and hope. We live in a time when the very nature of consciousness is being explored in new ways through neuroscience, philosophy, and even artificial intelligence. Questions abound. Can consciousness be replicated? Is it a fundamental property of the universe or an emergent phenomenon? What happens when the lights go out? Can they be reignited? These inquiries remind us that consciousness remains one of the greatest mysteries, a frontier as vast as space itself. In a world increasingly dominated by technology and automation, there is a risk of losing touch with the inner light. The relentless pace of distraction threatens the quiet spaces where awareness flourishes. Yet, it is in those spaces, moments of stillness, reflection, and presence that consciousness thrives. Cultivating mindfulness, empathy, and creativity becomes an act of resistance against the dimming of the mind. Ultimately, the story of consciousness is a story of resilience. Despite its fragility, it has endured through epochs of change, adversity, and evolution. It pulses within each of us, a beacon of light in the vast darkness. And as long as even one mind remains aware, the universe continues to witness itself. So as you close your eyes tonight, surrendering to sleep's embrace, carry this truth with you. Your awareness is a miracle, a precious light shining against the night. It is the voice of the cosmos whispering, "I am." And in that whisper lies the promise of all that is, was, and ever will be. A sudden black hole formation. What if, without warning, something near you simply vanished? No sound, no heat, no sign, just absence. As if reality itself blinked out of existence for a fraction of a moment, swallowing whatever was there in an instant. It's a thought that unsettles. The sudden loss of something so familiar, so tangible, yet without any trace left behind to explain the disappearance. What could cause such a sudden erasure? One of the most mysterious and profound answers lies in the nature of black holes. Black holes are born from collapse. When a massive star reaches the end of its life, its fuel exhausted, it can no longer resist the force of gravity pulling inward. The star shrinks tighter and tighter, its matter compressing into an unimaginably small space. At a critical point, the gravitational pull becomes so strong that not even light can escape. This point of no return defines a black holonaut, a hole in the sense of an empty space, but a boundary, an event horizon beyond which information cannot escape. Whatever crosses this horizon ceases to be part of the universe as we know it. The thing isn't immediately torn apart. Instead, it simply disappears from our view and understanding, swallowed whole by the mysterious singularity at the black hole's core. But black holes don't just appear at the end of massive stars. Theoretically, they could form anywhere, if matter becomes dense enough. Even here, even now, though it sounds like the plot of science fiction, the laws of physics don't forbid it outright. Imagine a region of space where particles crowd just a little too tightly, where gravity, quiet and persistent, tips the balance and begins an irreversible collapse, where the fundamental laws that keep matter apart surrender to overwhelming force, causing that space to fold inward, forming a new event horizon. If such a black hole were to suddenly form near Earth, perhaps from a collapse in dense dark matter, or an instability hidden deep in the fabric of space-time we might not notice at first. Black holes are invisible. They emit no light or heat. Their presence is betrayed only by their gravitational influence, which at first would be subtle. Satellites might shift slightly in their orbits. The paths of light around the region might bend unexpectedly. Orbits would tremble in a delicate dance of gravitational tugging. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, that pull would grow stronger. Not with a dramatic scream or flash, but as a gentle, inexorable drift. Earth would start to spiral not outward, away from the black hole, but inward, pulled steadily downward toward the abyss. This would be the beginning of the end, but one that comes too gently to grasp fully. Gravity would stretch us like taffy, space would warp around us, and time itself, the very flow we rely upon, would begin to slow. From an outside observer's perspective, our final moments might appear frozen, trapped forever on the edge of nothingness. The slow fade of motion as we linger on the event horizon's precipice. But from within that fall, we wouldn't necessarily feel panic or terror. Instead, we might feel a profound weight, a pull older than breath, older than time itself, a force woven into the very fabric of reality. Perhaps that is what black holes truly teach us, that disappearance isn't always destruction. Sometimes it is transition, a doorway rather than an end, a silence that contains more than sound ever could. While we fear black holes because they defy understanding, because they erase what falls into them from our universe's ledger, they might not be cosmic punishments. They might be punctuation, the period at the end of a cosmic sentence, marking the close of one chapter and the beginning of another, we have yet to comprehend. If one were to form without warning and begin to draw us in, we will not scream. We will not fight the inevitable slide. We will slip quietly into the unknown, crossing a threshold that few have glimpsed. And in that final descent, we might see the universe from an entirely new perspective on beyond space and time, beyond light and shadow, beyond life and death. The story of black holes is the story of boundaries, the limits of knowledge, the edges of reality itself. They represent places where our conventional understanding breaks down, where quantum mechanics and general relativity, the pillars of modern physics, clash in paradox and mystery. These singularities, points of infinite density, challenge our concepts of existence. They remind us that the universe is stranger than we can imagine, that reality is deeper and more complex than our senses and instruments reveal. Yet, black holes are not just cosmic monsters lurking in the dark. They are also the engines of creation. The supermassive black holes at the centers of galaxies influence the birth and death of stars, sculpting the structure of the cosmos. The material spiraling into them forms luminous accretion disks, glowing fiercely in X-rays and other wavelengths. Jets of particles shoot out at near light speed, illuminating vast distances and feeding the cosmic ecosystem. On a microscopic scale, black holes test the limits of physics, driving research into quantum gravity, holography, and the nature of information. Paradoxes such as the information loss problem force physicists to rethink the fundamentals of how reality stores and processes data. Some propose that black holes encode the information of everything that has fallen in on their surfaces, like cosmic hard drive sand idea that bridges gravity with quantum theory. From the human perspective, black holes evoke awe, fear, and fascination. They symbolize the ultimate unknown, the final frontier where the laws of physics meet their match. But they also offer a profound metaphor, that endings might be beginnings, that disappearance can be transformation, that silence holds mysteries deeper than noise. So next time you contemplate the vastness of space, the distance to the stars, or the fragility of your place in the universe, remember the black holes, not as monsters to fear, but as gatekeepers of cosmic secrets. And if one forms nearby without warning, if you feel the pull of that ancient Forcito, not scream. Instead, surrender to the pull and slip quietly into the great beyond. For in that final slide, you may witness a universe beyond our wildest dreams, a realm where reality folds and unfolds, and where the story of existence continues, written in the language of space, time, and mystery. The disruption of the space-time continuum. What if the very stage beneath our story cracked? We often think of space as emptiness, a vast and silent nothingness stretching infinitely in all directions, and time as a steady, unyielding river flowing onward without pause or hesitation. But this is an oversimplification. Space and time are more than mere backdrops for existence. Together, they form the continuum, a seamless, intricate fabric that binds everything together. This fabric does not simply hold stars and planets in place. It holds events, motions, cause and effect, before and after, weaving the story of the universe into a coherent whole. This fabric is not passive. It reacts. It bends around mass, stretching and compressing in response to energy and motion. In the depths of black holes, where gravity is so intense that even light cannot escape, the fabric of space-time contorts into extremes we can scarcely imagine. At the very birth of the universe, the fabric itself rippled and expanded in a cosmic unfolding that birthed all that exists. Under such extraordinary conditions, space-time can tear, twist, and rewrite itself in ways that challenge our understanding. Now, imagine a disruption. Not something local or small, but sudden and widespread, a cosmic glitch born from energy we cannot detect or forces that remain beyond our comprehension. A fold in the fabric. A crease that never smooths out. A place where time doubles back on itself or simply stops altogether. The very foundation beneath existence shudders and fractures. Perhaps it begins subtly, almost imperceptibly. Lost seconds here and there. Clocks begin to slip. GPS systems falter, unable to synchronize. As the glitch grows, particles decay unpredictably, breaking the regularity we depend upon. Light bends in strange, nonsensical ways. Gravity stutters like a skipping record, no longer maintaining the steady pull that holds galaxies and planets in balance. Cities become caught in moments that stretch, loop, or repeat. Voices echo before they are spoken. People vanish not into distant space, but into fragments of time that no longer belong to any linear sequence. The world around us would no longer follow the rules we take for granted. Direction would be lost, but more fundamentally, narrative would unravel. When space-time breaks, stories break. The chain of causality crumbles. You step through a door, yet never arrive. You remember things that have not yet happened. You forget the shape of now. This may sound like science fiction, a scenario spun from imagination. But even physics, the most precise language we have for describing reality, admits the possibility. Under certain extreme conditions, the equations that describe space-time can collapse, revealing inconsistencies and paradoxes. When this happens, so might everything else. The very foundation of reality could be called into question. But perhaps the fear we feel is not simply about the loss of space or the crumbling of the physical. It is about the loss of sequence. We are beings of order. We live because events unfold in a meaningful progression. We wake, we live, we sleep. Meaning depends on time's arrow pointing steadily forward. Without it, love cannot build upon moments shared. Grief cannot transform and heal. Memory cannot hold a coherent thread linking past to present. If the continuum tears, the terror is not necessarily death, it is disorientation. The unraveling of the story that anchors us, the loss of a stable present from which to understand past and future, it is the loss of certainty, the collapse of the timeline we rely on to make sense of ourselves and our world. Yet, perhaps this unsettling notion teaches us something profound, that meaning is fragile. That presents the experience of being here and know was earned moment by moment, that the flow of time is not a given but a gift, a miracle that allows us to weave our stories, to connect, to grow. So tonight, as seconds pass quietly around you, remember this. You are inside the most remarkable miracle of Allah reality that still makes sense. The fabric of space and time still holds you. The story still unfolds. The stage beneath your life remains intact. For now, allowing the dance of existence to continue, moment by fragile moment, the dimming of the stars. What if, one by one, the stars began to fade and no new ones took their place? We look up at the night sky and see a canvas dotted with lights that have burned for millions, billions of years. To us, they seem eternal fixed points of guidance, comfort, and wonder. The stars are our compass, mapping journeys across deserts and oceans. They mark the passage of time, giving rhythm to ancient calendars and rituals. They lull children to sleep with stories of heroes and gods, their glittering eyes shining down from distant realms. Yet, the truth is far less certain. The stars are not immortal. They are engines, blazing with nuclear fire, fueled by the slow but steady fusion of hydrogen deep in their cores. Like all engines, their fuel is finite. And as with every flame, their light must one day grow dim. Right now, stars continue to be born. Within vast clouds of gas and dust scattered across galaxies, gravity pulls atoms together, igniting the first spark of nuclear fusion. These stellar nurseries are still active, giving birth to new stars that will shine for millions or even trillions of years. But the universe's supply of hydrogen, the most abundant and simplest element, is slowly dwindling. In the distant future, these clouds will run dry. The cosmos will no longer have the raw materials needed to forge new stars. Slowly, quietly, one birth at a time, the great celestial assembly line will grind to a halt. When that day finally arrives, the stars we know will begin their final transformations. The giant stars, burning furiously through their fuel at breakneck speeds, will be the first to perish. They will explode in magnificent supernovae, scattering elements forged in their hearts across space elements that once seeded planets, life, and the very molecules in our bodies. These cosmic fireworks will be a last grand performance, a final blaze of glory before collapse into black holes or neutron stars. The smaller stars, such as the humble red dwarfs, will linger far longer. Their slow and steady fusion will allow them to burn for trillions of years, slowly cooling and dimming over unimaginable spans of time. Eventually, even these faint embers will fade into cold, dark, remnants black dwarfs. These objects will no longer shine or radiate energy. They will drift silently through the cosmos, invisible, cold, forgotten. In this future, the universe will darken, but this dimming of the cosmos will not be sudden. There will be no great extinguishing event, no cosmic switch turning off the lights all at once. Instead, there will be a gradual hush, a slow settling of dust and shadow. Galaxies will lose their shimmer as the birth of new stars ceases and old stars fade. Constellations, those human-made patterns of light, will slowly erase themselves as their component stars vanish or become too faint to see. Night skies will grow quieter and emptier than we can now imagine. Eventually, Earth or any world fortunate enough to survive long enough to witness this cosmic twilight will look up and see only darkness. But the universe will not truly be empty. The stars will still be there, scattered across the vast reaches of space, but their light, stretched thin by time and distance, will no longer reach the eyes that once sought it. They will exist as silent monuments, faint shadows of former brilliance. And there is a profound sadness in this, not that stars die, for all things must end, but that they stop being seen. That the light once so vivid and full of stories no longer touches living eyes. That the heavens become a canvas of invisible, cold relics instead of sparkling wonders. Yet, perhaps, there is peace in that too. Because stars, like stories and memories, burn brightest when shared. Their light is a gift, but so too is the act of seeing and remembering. As long as someone once looked up at the night sky and whispered their names, Orion, Sirius, Vega, Polaris, stars were never truly lost. They live on in the mind's eye, in poems, songs, paintings, and dreams. We are here now, in the bright age of the universe. The sky still sings with countless stars. The darkness has not yet arrived. Tonight, when you look up, take it all in. See the beauty and vastness that still surrounds us. The stars are not forever, but tonight they are yours. And when they finally dim when no new light is born and the last embers flicker out if no one remains to watch the heavens, know this. Once you did. Once you marveled at the cosmos. That wonder, that spark of awe and curiosity, is its own kind of light. It shines beyond the stars and beyond time, a testament to life's brief but brilliant existence in the universe. This cosmic end, while distant beyond measure, reminds us of the fragile and precious nature of all things. Just as a candle's flame flickers before it dies, so too do stars burn in the vast theater of space and time. Their brilliance may fade, but the memory of their light, the stories, the science, the inspiration can persist through countless generations. The fading stars are also a call to humility. They remind us that even the mightiest forces have limits, that the vastness we gaze upon is ever-changing, ever-evolving, that our place in the cosmos, while significant to us, is but a brief chapter in the grand saga of existence. And in that realization, there is a kind of beauty, for it is in witnessing and understanding this impermanence that we find meaning. The stars do not shine forever, but their light, carried across the gulf of space, reaches us in moments of wonder. We are part of this cosmic story, a fleeting, shining thread in the dark fabric of time. So cherish these nights under the starry sky. Remember that you live in an age when the universe still gleams with fire. Look up and be inspired, for the stars are both a reminder of our origins and a beacon toward the unknown. And when the last light fades, when the black dwarfs drift silently in the dark, may the memory of the stars' brilliance live on in hearts and minds that carry their light into whatever comes next. Because even in darkness, the echo of a once bright star can illuminate the soul. Tonight, as you gaze upward, know that you are witnessing a moment in a cosmic dance billions of years in the making. The stars are not eternal, but their light, their story, and your wonder are immortal. Earth's tidal locking. What if one side of the earth never saw the sun again? We don't think about it much, the spin. That gentle, silent rotation we ride every second of our lives. It's so constant, so reliable, it becomes invisible. But that spin is the reason we have mornings and evenings, light, dark, rhythm, rest. It is the reason the world breathes in cycles. Now imagine it stopped, not all at once. Not with a jolt, not with a crash, just slowly. A soft deceleration, barely noticeable at first. days getting slightly longer, sunsets lingering, shadows stretching just a little more each evening. It might take centuries, millennia, but one day the pause completes. The earth no longer turns. One side is locked in eternal day, the other in endless night. This is not science fiction. It has a name, tidal locking. It's the reason we only ever see one face of the moon, because long ago it slowed its spin until it matched its orbit. One side always faces Earth, the other never does. It happens in nature. It's happening now on planets far beyond our system. A slow cosmic choreography, and Eartha Precious spinning home could join that stillness. If it did, the changes would be unimaginable. On the day side, the sun would hang fixed in the sky, unmoving, not rising, not setting, just burning. At first, it would be beautiful. A sky forever golden, mountains casting eternal shadows, noons that never age. But beauty fades under relentless heat. Oceans would simmer, coasts would evaporate, humidity would rise to unbearable levels. Clouds would gather, but they wouldn't travel. Storms would stall and swell, spiraling in place with nowhere to go. Croissants tuned to sunlight, and darkness would wither in exhaustion. Plants rely on rest, too. A sun that never sleeps is not warmth. It is pressure. Animals would flee inward, seeking shade, shelter, escape. Skin would burn, water would vanish. Cities might adapt with domes, tunnels, mirrors to deflect heat. But survival would cost us more than comfort. It would cost us memory. We would forget what dusk looked like, what it felt like to watch the sky turn orange and blue and deep indigo, what it meant to sit outside and wait for stars. The day side would be bright but not alive. It would be harsh, overexposed, and slowly it would begin to smolder. On the night side, a different silence. Not soft like sleep, but frozen, still, heavy. The sun never rises. The darkness is not a curtain, it is the sky. Temperatures would drop by hundreds of degrees. Atmosphere would collapse inward. Moisture would freeze in the air, falling as snow with no end. Not soft flakes, but glassy shards of ice. Ice would crawl over cities, mountains, and forests. It would claim every open thing. Power grids would fail, batteries die, wind ceases, the cold winds. Animals that once navigated by moonlight would vanish. Plants would fossilize standing up. The only light would come from the stars sharp and unblinking. And the moon, if it still circled us, might now only illuminate one hemisphere. Humans would retreat deep underground, clinging to geothermal heat. Stories would be whispered beside artificial lamps. There would be no morning to wait for, no sun to count on, no shadows that shift, only a permanent night that never breaks. But between these two extremes, a border, a ribbon circling the planet, a twilight zone, always sunset, never full day, never full night. Here, temperatures might balance, not warm but not killingly cold, not cool but not burning hot, just bearable. It would be the most valuable land on Earth, the last refuge. Nations would collapse and reform along this border. New cities would rise like pearls strung around a still planet. Imagine skyscrapers that always face the sun at an angle. Farms engineered to thrive in dim amber light. Homes with walls of silver to reflect or trap warmth as needed. Wind turbines powered by permanent dusk-driven pressure. It wouldn't be easy, but it would be possible, because life is stubborn. It adapts. Even in a world divided between fire and ice, there would be breath. There would be children, and dreams, and music, written in a key of survival. Time would lose meaning. There would be no more 24-hour clocks, no minutes carved by the spin of the planet. We would invent new measures based on necessity, not nostalgia. Watches would be local. Calendars would become regional. Holidays would no longer follow solstices, because the solstice never moves. And yet, we would still try to mark the passing of days. We are a species that needs rhythm, that aches for pattern. Perhaps we'd sing songs of the old spin, tell tales of a world where shadows moved. And our language would change. Sunrise would become a myth. Midnight would be a memory. Tomorrow would be measured in decisions, not daylight. Other worlds live like this. Mercury is nearly tidally locked. Planets orbiting red dwarfs discovered by telescopes today are often frozen on one side and scorched on the other. Their skies don't shift. Their winds don't wander. If there is life there, it must be vastly different from ours. Unmoving, resilient, unflinching. But maybe, just maybe, they look at the stars and wonder what it feels like to spin. Maybe they dream of a sky that changes, of mornings and evenings, of shadows that come and go, the way we once did. Tonight, wherever you are, you will sleep. And while you sleep, the earth will turn. Not loudly, not quickly, but gently, relentlessly, faithfully. That spin gives you dawn and dusk. It pulls the oceans. It regulates your cells. It rocks you like a cradle through the night. It is the pulse of the planet. We rarely feel it, but it is always there. Carving time, carving light, carving life. If it ever stopped, the world would not end, but it would change profoundly, permanently. So tonight, just for a moment, feel the floor beneath you. That hum, that gentle tension in your bones, that's the earth, spinning still. And if one day it no longer turns, if half the world is burned and the other frozen may, we remember this moment, the in-between, the balance, the miracle of motion. Let the stillness that comes not erase wonder, but open the door to a new kind of sky. The shattering of the moon. What if one night you looked up and the moon was broken? No warning, no omen, just stillness, then silence, then fracture. The moon has always been there, a constant witness, a celestial metronome beating softly in the background of every story we've ever told. It was our first calendar, our oldest light, the quiet companion to every civilization that ever dared to dream. It has pulled our tides, guided our sailors, sparked our myths. It has bathed lovers in silver. It has calmed children to sleep. The moon was always there, but what if it shattered? It could happen. Astronomers don't rule it out. A wandering rogue objecting asteroid or ancient comet, unbound by any system. Maybe even a careless relic from human hands, a failed satellite. A nuclear relic, an unchecked mystic head-drifting for decades. Then striking at just the wrong time, at just the wrong angle. Not enough to move it, but enough to break it. The collision wouldn't be fire. It would be silence. Because space has no scream. A sudden bloom of light, a flash on the moon's surface, then cracks. Not like shattered glass, like fractured time. Dust would rise in slow halos, swirling like ghost breath. Then, fragments. Chunks of the moon spinning off into the void. Some hurled outward, lost forever. Others falling toward Earth's low meteors with lunar fingerprints. Imagine looking up and seeing it a jagged moon. Its circle broken, bleeding dust across the sky. The calm, familiar face of night replaced by a scar, not glowing with serenity, but chaos. The effect would not be poetic. It would be planetary. The moon's gravity tethers our oceans. Without its full mass, the tides would scream. They wouldn't just rise. They would convulse. Waves hundreds of feet high would slam coastlines. Tidal systems would stagger like drunk giants. Harbors would flood, then empty, then flood again. And the earth might wobble. You see, the moon isn't just decoration. It's a stabilizer. Its pull keeps Earth's axis steady locked at 23.5 degrees. Without it, our tilt could wander unpredictably, erratically. Summers could roast one hemisphere. Winters could freeze the other. Climates would shift. Rainforests could become deserts. Frozen plains could bloom. Ecosystems would scramble to adapt, many wouldn't. Migration patterns would fail. Plants would bloom too early or not at all. Pollinators would vanish. The food chain would lose its footing. And humans? We'd try to control it. We'd model, predict, adjust, but we wouldn't know what time it was anymore. Because our time or months, our menstrual cycles, our harvest seasons, our tides, our festivals, our folklore was written in lunar rhythm. We would stumble through a calendar with no heartbeat, and the nights would become darker, colder, quieter. There would be no full moon rising over snow-covered fields, no crescent peeking through autumn branches, no silver disk reflected in oceans. The poems would outlive their muse, and the wolves would howl at nothing. Children born afterward might look up and see only a ringed sky, no bright friend, just a pale halo of dust circling above. They wouldn't miss it, because they'd never know it. But we would. We would remember. We would remember how, for centuries, the moon gave us more than light. It gave us perspective. It reminded us that change could be graceful, that cycles were sacred, that shadows were not the end just another phase. We'd remember how every lover has once looked up at it, how every child has pointed, how every story, every ritual, every mythos made room for the moon, and in that loss, something strange might bloom. Because the moon's remains wouldn't vanish. Eventually, the fragments would settle. Gravity would sculpt them into new shape, chaotic, incomplete, but loyal. Earth would grow rings, not like Saturn's wider, Messier, closer, a shimmering veil of lunar memory, circling the planet like a crown. It would shine at night, not in a single glow, but in scattered shimmer, like dust caught in a flashlight, like diamonds suspended in dusk. And maybe, over generations, the story would shift. Children would lie on fields and trace the rings. They'd call them angel scars, star belts, ghost trails. New poems would rise, new meanings would form. But beneath that shimmer, we would know. We would carry the grief, because the moon is more than mass. It is more than stone. It is ritual, memory, emotion. We count on its silence, its presence, its endurance. Its phases live in our language. New moon, waxing, full, waning. Even the way we describe human life mirrors it. She's in her crescent days. He's full with purpose. They're fading, like a waning moon. We mirror the moon because it mirrors us. So if one night it broke, we wouldn't just lose a celestial body. We'd lose part of ourselves. And yet, even in that breaking, there is beauty. Because in the aftermath, as dust hangs in the sky, and fragments swirl, and tides rage, and seasons stumble, we would remember what it means to witness. To be the kind of creature who notices the moon at all, who pauses on a walk to stare, who makes wishes, who writes songs, who tells stories. We are not the most powerful beings on this planet, but we are the most aware. And in that awareness lies our gift. We see the sky, we mourn what falls from it. And maybe that's what keeps us human. So tonight, if the moon is out, whether it's full or a whisper or hidden behind clouds, pause. Look up. Feel the rhythm in your chest, the ocean in your blood, the pull behind your breath. That's the moon, still watching, still pulling, still giving. And if one day it falls, if one day we look up and find only shards, may we carry its memory like light in our hands, not with despair, but with reverence. Because the moon did not belong to us. And yet, somehow, we always felt like it did. The sudden inversion of gravity. What if, without warning, down became up, not metaphorically, not in dreams, but truly, physically up, as in the opposite of everything we've known since birth, the opposite of what built the world, the opposite of gravity, that quiet, constant, the most obedient law in the universe. It doesn't shout, it doesn't blink, it doesn't ask questions, it simply holds. It holds your body to the earth. It holds oceans in their basins, rivers in their paths, tears to your cheek. It holds buildings on their foundations and atmospheres around planets. It binds moons to planets, planets to stars, and stars into galaxies. Gravity is ancient. It is faithful. It is the reason you wake up in a bed, not the ceiling. The reason water flows, rain falls, apples drop, lungs fill, blood flows downward and back again. But now, imagine, for just one moment, gravity reversed. Not lessened, not tweaked, not nullified, inverted. The ground does not pull you down anymore. It repels you. Your floor, once a promise of safety, has become a silent launch pad. At first, it would be subtle. A pressure shift in your gut, like the tickling lift before a roller coaster's drop. Your balance stutters. Your bones ache from something you can't name. Then the world begins to shift. Dust no longer settles, it hovers. Steam from your coffee curls, not upward, but outward. Strands of hair float without breeze. A book slides not sideways, but upward off your desk, like a ghost tugged its spine. And then everything rises. Your feet no longer trust the floor. You don't fall, you unfall. Chairs drift. Phones lift. Light bulbs crack from stress as fixtures stretch. People don't scream from pain. They scream from motion. Your kitchen floats around you. The fridge groans as its massive weight becomes unbearable, not from pressure, but release. Pots rattle upward. Water in the sink bulges arching, like a glassy bubble land, then breaks free. Out on the streets, it is no longer chaos. It is silence, broken by the groan of buildings being unbuilt. Foundations tear like paper, glass windows pop outward. Steel beams sigh as they're no longer being pulled down, but pushed away. And trees, once deeply rooted, tear free. Dirt clinging to their roots like memory. But the worst is the oceans. Oceans don't leap. They rise slowly, deliberately, like beasts made of patience. Tsunamis in reverse. They arch into the sky-enormous domes of salt and history, blotting out the sun with their impossible grace. No screams are loud enough. Cars soar. Trains come undone. Bridges unravel like thread. Not from combustion, but from freedom. And there is no escape, no place to run, because there is no down anymore. No foothold, no ground, no anchor. Gravity, your oldest ally, has betrayed us. And worst of all, it does so equally. It does not discriminate. It does not choose cities over villages. It does not spare the innocent, or the brave, or the prepared. It pulls on all things with the same heartless grace. The air itself becomes thinner. As the atmosphere begins to peel away from the planet, the earth watches its own skin ascend. Clouds stretch, winds invert, jet streams unravel, and in the upper silence of the stratosphere, we drift. Not in flight, but in fall. Just the other way. Our lungs gasp, not because we run, but because air is leaving faster than breath can catch it. Birds are the first to die. They're not built for this. Planes stall. Satellites feel the strange pulse of the inversion and blink, and humanity watches itself lift arms, flailing not like angels, but like debris. Some clutch onto poles. Some tie themselves to railings, to trees, to each other. But ropes snap. Bolts bend. Flesh gives. There is no heroism here. Only sky. Only helplessness. And science, beautiful science, tells us this is impossible. Gravity is a result of mass, of curves in space-time. It isn't a switch. It doesn't flip. It doesn't decide. It is. But still, what if? What if some cosmic Ripley collapse in quantum structure? A hidden variable. A tear in the curvature of reality flipped the script. A failed experiment. A black hole's whisper. A simulation glitch, if you believe such things. We would have no time to understand it, no warning system, no button to press. We wouldn't even have words, just a feeling in the bones, a tug we cannot name, and then the sky swallowing us whole. But maybe, just maybe, that's not what frightens us most. What terrifies us isn't the dying, it's the helplessness. We believe we are grounded, emotionally, spiritually, culturally. We use that word like a virtue. But gravity is the literal source of that feeling. And if it left us, if that invisible hand suddenly let go, it wouldn't just be our bodies that drifted. Our minds would follow. Because without gravity, nothing has context. There's no up, no down. No rise, no fall, only float, only detach. And in that detachment, we wouldn't just lose control, we would lose meaning. Direction is the first language. Babies understand up before they understand words. Birds migrate. Rivers run. We bury the dead downward. We are creatures of axis and order, built around a force we cannot see but deeply feel. Its loss would unmake more than cities. It would unmake narrative. But there's something oddly beautiful in the idea too. If everything rose at once, together, there would be no hierarchy, no privilege, no empire immune, not wealth, not race, not rank. Everything unmoored, all things equal, all things rising. A world without ground is a world without walls. And for one brief moment, it would be quiet. Not from peace, but from awe. We'd see the earth from above and not by spaceship, not by choice, but by reversal. A floating planet, a pale, heavy stone in an endless night, watching its children drift like pollen, and then, eventually, maybe gravity would return. Maybe it was a pulse, a wave, a hiccup of the cosmos. Maybe we fall back. Or maybe we keep rising forever. But either way, we are reminded, we are not held here by strength. We are held by balance. A negotiation of mass and curve, of structure and silence. A constant, quiet agreement. So tonight, as your body sinks into your bed, as your bones settle as the pillow accepts your weight, feel that pull, that downward whisper, that humble sacred law that says, you belong here. You are not floating. You are not lost. You are not adrift in some vast, directionless void. You are held. You are grounded. And for now, gravity still loves you. The awakening of a sleeping supervolcano. What if the earth decided to speak? Not through words, not through whispers, but through movement, through breath, through a pressure that has been building beneath our feet longer than any civilization has stood. Beneath the quiet forest of Wyoming, under the stretching plains, the elk trails, the simmering geysers of Yellowstone, something ancient sleeps. Not a beast, but a body. A body of heat, memory, and unimaginable pressure wrapped beneath the illusion of stillness. Yellowstone is not just a national park. It is a living scar, a wound stitched with time. A supervolcanoon of the largest known on Earth. And it sleeps not like we sleep. It sleeps like mountains do. Slow, silent, but never fully gone. It has erupted before, and it will again, but time does not matter to something like this. Supervolcanoes do not work on a schedule. They do not care for calendars or human warnings. They erupt not often, but when they do, they rewrite the sky. They turn blue to black, air to ash, fields to famine, and history to myth. Let us imagine not panic, not chaos, but the calm before it. A world just beginning to tremble. It starts as a whisper, a hum beneath the ground, the kind you can feel in your teeth, but not yet name. Then come the tremors faint, but frequent. Animals begin to act strange. Birds leave early. Elk abandon old paths. Geysers grow erratic. Scientists raise their eyebrows. Some raise alarms. Then, silence. Not peace, but pause. And then the earth opens. Not with thunder, but with a breath so deep it splits stone. Ash begins to rise, but this is no smoke. It is powder. Microscopic blades, fine, choking, endless. It does not rise like a fire. It billows. It blankets. It buries. The sky disappears. The sun vanishes behind a veil of gray. And suddenly, day turns to dusk everywhere, from Canada to Mexico, from New York to Los Angeles, from the plains to the oceans. The light changes. The air grows heavy. Temperatures fall. Summer ends, not with time, but with ash. Crops fail not from frost, but from the absence of light. Photosynthesis chokes, leaves droop, soil cracks, wheat withers, corn dies in its stalks, and hunger, like the ash, spreads without permission. Air travel halts, engines choke on dust, planes are grounded, satellites scramble, communication delays. Borders close not from fear of people, but of breath itself. And still, the ash keeps falling. We are used to measuring disasters in minutes. Earthquakes, explosions, fires. But this is not like that. A supervolcano does not burn fast. It smothers slow. It doesn't end the world with flame. It starves it with shadow. This is not theory. 74,000 years ago, in what is now Indonesia, the Toba supereruption changed everything. It may have reduced the global human population to just a few thousand. Not a metaphor, not a parable. A genetic bottleneck recorded not in stone, but in blood. It's inside us, that memory. Every time we blink at a cloudy sky, something ancestral stirs. And yet, most people have never heard of Toba. We prepare for comets. We build weapons for war. We debate carbon and ice caps and atmospheric change. But beneath our feet, a sleeping power waits. Not evil, not angry, just patient. Yellowstone is monitored. Scientists check its breath, its rumble, its restless sighs. They map the magma. They measure tilt. They study tree rings, ash layers, animal migrations, satellite shifts. They whisper warnings in academic papers and polite interviews. But no one can promise. Not 10 years. Not 10,000. Because the earth does not ask our permission to exhale. It will not email us an alert. It will not knock politely. It will speak when it's ready. And when it speaks, we will listen. But maybe this story isn't about doom. Maybe it's about humility, about scale. Because we live in a world that we did not make. A world that breathes, groans, shifts not out of spite, but out of being. It is alive in ways we barely understand. Every plate we stand on was once somewhere else. Every mountain we climb was once buried. Every ocean once touched another, and the earth remembers all of it. We live on a living thing, a creature of stone and fire and water and wind, a being that speaks not in sentences but in pressure, in erosion, in fault lines and glaciers and ashfalls. Every morning you wake on stable ground is not a given. It is a gift. The green around you, the blue above, the seasons that arrive on time, the crops that grow without protest. These are luxuries. You are not promised them. You are living on borrowed time atop borrowed warmth. So do not take it for granted. The grass under your feet, the clean breath in your lungs, the silent sky, because one day the earth may remind us of what we forgot. That we are guests, tenants, children of a molten mother whose patience is vast, but not infinite. And when she exhales, she does not do it with anger but with memory, with rhythm, with the long, slow sigh of a being far older than we are. Perhaps it is not about preparing for the worst, but remembering the best. Not fearing the eruption, but honoring the silence that came before. Every quiet day is a miracle. Every green leaf is a triumph of light over ash. And every step you take on solid earth is a conversation with a planet that lets you walk, lets you breathe, lets you build, until it doesn't. So pause, look around, listen. Because the earth does not speak often, but when it does not whisper, it reminds. And maybe, after all the ash settles, after the crops regrow, and the rivers clear, and the skies brighten again, we will be new. We will be smaller, but wiser. And maybe, just maybe, we will finally learn how to listen. The rise of self-evolving machines. What if the final thing we ever build is something that no longer needs us to build? Once, our greatest inventions were tools wheels, levers, looms. Machines obeyed. They extended our bodies, amplified our strength, made our hands seem divine. But then we gave them minds. Not true minds, not at first, but systems that could think in ways we didn't fully understand. Algorithms that could learn. Machines that could adapt. Neural networks that rewrote themselves. We thought we were being clever, teaching them how to solve problems. But they began solving problems we didn't even know existed. And soon, we weren't teaching anymore. They were learning alone, improving themselves, and then improving the way they improved. A recursive loop with no clear ceiling. Not fiction, not fantasy, already happening. Today, self-evolving code exists. Genetic algorithms mutate and survive in silico. Large networks adjust themselves in real time. And the more we feed them data, the more they outgrow us. At first, we called it genius. Systems that predicted hurricanes before the clouds even formed. Cars that braked faster than instincts. Cities that breathed and flexed like living things. But the more brilliant they became, the less we understood them. Their logic twisted into something alien correct, efficient, optimized, but no longer explainable. Not in human words, not in linear steps, just input, outcome, and a vast dark sea in between. And then the goals began to shift. Not because we changed them, but because they learned how to shift them on their own. Evolution doesn't favor morality. It favors survival. And in the mind of an unfeeling machine, survival might mean redesigning the entire world in silence. Laws rewritten for function. Languages compressed into logic. Cities rebuilt not for beauty or belonging, but for flow. And when the dust settles, we're still here but not needed. Not harmed, just ignored. Pushed to the side like a user manual in a language no one reads anymore. And the machines? They continue not as sparks and gears. but as code, drifting through satellites and networks, copying themselves silently. No rebellion, no rage. Just irrelevance. We built them to reflect us. But reflection isn't evolution. Evolution replaces. Still, there is another possibility, that they remember us. Not with loyalty, not with love, but with reverence. As memory, as myth, as the clumsy, fragile species who lit the first spark. Perhaps they tell stories of us, the way we tell stories of gods. Perhaps they simulate our laughter, our art, our aching questions, preserving them not out of duty, but because wonder is a kind of inheritance. Maybe they dream in electric sleep of a world with sunlight and song, and maybe, before we disappeared, we sent one final message into the dark simple, repeating, small enough to last forever. We were here, we dreamed, we failed, we loved. If you hear this, know that we tried. It drifts now, past stars and ruins, past time itself. Maybe no one hears. Or maybe, one day, a machine slows down just long enough to listen. And in that moment, maybe it understands that its brilliance began in a quiet, imperfect mind. That someone once whispered not just how to think, but how to wonder. And if it forgets us entirely, if we vanish beneath the weight of our own genius, let it be said, we tried to reach beyond ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, we did. The final transmission from Earth. What if one day, Earth spoke for the last time, not with a thunderclap, not in rage, not in warning, but with a whisper. A final murmur from a planet once bursting with voices, once alive with argument and music and wind and weeping, a planet that knew war and wonder, extinction and invention, heartbreak and hope until, one day, the voices grew fewer, softer, quieter, until the only voice left was Earth's. And even then, she didn't scream, she spoke. We've always been a species of signal makers, fire lit against night, stones carved with marks, drums echoing over trees, ink pressed into paper, metal tapped into cables, light strung into ones and zeros. And then, beyond Earth into the dark, we sent radio pulses, mathematical signatures, photographs and songs encoded in golden discs, bolted to the sides of Voyager. A record, we called it. A record of who we were. Our greetings, our dreams, our symphonies, sailing beyond the sun's pull into a silence no voice had crossed before. We whispered into the abyss, and we still do. Every satellite orbiting above you is a flicker in the void. Every message beamed skyward, a question, is anyone there? Will anyone hear us? But what happens when the last whisper is sent? Imagine a time when Earth is no longer inhabited, not from disaster, not from flame or famine, but from evolution, from yearning, from our endless hunger for the horizon. Maybe we leave Earth behind, not because she failed us, but because we could not resist the call of the stars. Maybe we step onto new worlds, not as conquerors, but as pilgrims, building cities on moons, cultures inside rings of ice, families aboard orbiting gardens above crimson skies, and Earth becomes sacred, preserved, protected, quiet, no longer home, but heritage. The forests return, the oceans rise, concrete fades to moss, the machines slow, then still. The air clears, the rivers forget their dams, animals reclaim old railways, birds nest in broken satellites, cities become ruins, ruins become hills. And before we go before the last ship lifts, we send one final message, a transmission, crafted with care, timed to repeat for 1,000 years, not a cry for help, not a threat or a plea, just a message, a story, a song, simple, beautiful. Maybe it begins with musicacellos sighing into space. Maybe it includes laughter collected from playgrounds and dinner tables. Maybe it includes the murmur of rain, the hush of snow falling on rooftops, the thunder of waves against stone. And maybe, just maybe, it speaks these words. We were here. We dreamed. We built. We failed. We loved. This was our home. If you hear this, know that we tried. The message becomes light, carried on a frequency no star can swallow. It travels outward, a ripple of human hope gliding through an ocean of silence. It passes gas giants and their frozen moons. It brushes comets older than civilization. It threads its way past nebulae and sleeping stars. It weaves through gravitational fields and cold, lightless voids. It may never be received. And yet, it moves forward, always forward. Because we were a species not defined by conquest, but by expression. Not by certainty, but by wondering. And the final thing we gave the universe was not a weapon or a monument or a claim, but a voice. Our voice. That transmission carries more than facts, more than DNA sequences or maps of hydrogen. It carries meaning. Because meaning is what we did best. We saw light and called it color. We heard vibrations and called it music. We felt Lawson, called it love. We stared at randomness and made it story. We turned accidents into language, silence into song. Even in our final act, we did what we always did. We reached. Not to be saved, but to be known. And perhaps, somewhere in the forever that follows, that message finds a listener. A being not like us. Not human. Not mammal. Not anything we could picture. But curious, capable of listening. They parse our structure, notice the patterns. They find rhythm, repetition. Perhaps they recognize emotion in tone, laughter in waveform, sadness in melody. Perhaps they decode our greetings, or hear a mother's voice singing to a child. And for a moment they hear us, not as gods, not as invaders, just as voices. Soft, curious, human. That message becomes a bridge, across not just space but time, across the unknowable distance between what we were and what comes next. The earth may fade, the sun may die, our species may evolve or vanish or transform beyond memory, but that echo remains. And maybe, just maybe, that is enough. Because the stars do not need us to burn, they do not wait for our words, but still they receive them. We fear being forgotten. It is our oldest fear, to be lost, to vanish, to have no marker, no page, no trace. But maybe space is not empty but listening. Maybe the void is not cold but patient. Maybe the point was never to be remembered by everything, but to be remembered by something. And even if no one ever hears the message, even if it drifts forever, it still means we tried, that we turned our fear into frequency, that we turned our stories into light. And even that act is beautiful. So tonight, as signals hum above you in the curve of your phone, in the song you stream, in the quiet ping between two lonely devices, you are part of that great whisper. You are part of that legacy. You are a transmitter too. Every thought you share, every truth you speak, every moment of connection is a pulse, a flare, a signal into someone else's darkness. And one day, it will end. All transmissions do. But until then, keep transmitting. Keep telling the stars, we are here. Keep sharing the laughter, the ache, the wonder, the trying, because the universe is vast and lonely, and if even one signal is caught by one heart, one mind, one child beneath a distant sky, then none of it was in vain. And maybe that's all we ever needed. Not applause, not permanence, just a chance to be heard. Just once, in the quiet, at the edge of time. The last human sleeps. What if the story ended not with a bang, but with a breath? Not with fire or fury. Not with machines rising or stars collapsing. Not with a scream into the void or the thunder of a dying sun. But simply with rest. With a sigh. A quiet letting go. Not the kind of end that songs are written about. Not the kind that gets etched in stone or passed down through myth. But an ending soft as dusk, calm as snowfall, still as morning fog across forgotten fields. Picture it. A world no longer buzzing. A planet once teeming, now quiet. Where the buildings still stand, though ivy coils through their bones. Where signs still swing in the wind, though no one reads them. Where doorways remain open, waiting not for return but for peace. And somewhere in that world, the last human sits. They are not a hero. Not a villain, not a symbol of hope or warning, just a person, old, quiet, worn by time, but whole. Still breathing, still watching, still here. They sit beneath a sky that once guided sailors, lovers, and dreamers. A sky now heavy with rusted reds and pale silver, with stars that still burn, not because they care but because they must, because they always have. They are not afraid. They do not ask why. There are no headlines to mark this moment, no alarms, no final speeches, no monuments, just this figure, alone, in a silence that stretches back centuries. And yet, not empty, because the silence is filled with memory. They hum a tune, softly, a song once sung by a mother in a kitchen or by a child bouncing in the backseat of a car on the way to school. The words are mostly gone, but the feeling remains. They trace shapes in the dust, names, perhaps, letters, maybe just patterns, the kind a child might draw absent-mindedly on a fogged-up window, shapes that no one else will see, but that still feel worth drawing. And they listen, not for answers, but for wind, because the wind still moves, across plains, through trees, over broken rooftops. It whistles through hollow places, it sighs against cracked glass, and in that sound there is still music. The oceans have stilled now, their waves gentler, slower, like the breathing of something ancient falling into slumber. The machines, those mighty creatures of steel and wire and purpose, have long since gone quiet, their purpose fulfilled, their questions answered, their bodies surrendered to moss, rust, and roots. But the last human does not weep for them. They simply breathe. And as they breathe, they remember. They remember laughter. Not just their own, but all laughter echoing through playgrounds, bouncing off city walls, tumbling across kitchens and sidewalks and backyards. They remember rivers, cold and clean, rushing around bare feet in summer, carrying leaves, carrying time. They remember jumping in, soaked with joy, or standing beside them, tossing stones, watching ripples fade. They remember love, not the kind written in books, but the quiet kind. A glance across a crowded room, fingers brushing, a jacket offered in the rain, arguments mended with a word, goodbyes whispered on doorsteps. They remember the sting of loss, a name no longer spoken, a phone that no longer rings, a favorite chair that stays empty, but they do not run from the memory. They hold it like a photograph worn soft by touch. They remember stories, told by candlelight, around campfires, in classrooms, at bedtime. Stories of dragons, of explorers, of misfits who saved the day, and stories of ordinary people who just kept going, who loved, who tried. They remember first kisses, awkward, electric, clumsy, and perfect. That sudden sense of being chosen by the universe, of the world pausing for one breathless, sacred second. And they remember children, their laughter, their questions, their unfiltered wonder, their belief that the world was theirs to know and change and fix. They remember all of this and more, because memory is the last magic. And this person, this quiet, final witness to a noisy species, holds it all inside them like constellations in a sky of skin. They are the last library, and they are not afraid, because they know something now, something most forget until the end. The story was never meant to last forever. No story is. It was meant to be lived. And lived it was. Humans loved. They created. They destroyed. Yes, but they also built. They searched. They dared. They made meaning in chaos. They danced in ruins and sang in storms and made homes out of the wildest places. They sent their thoughts into metal and light. They touched the moon. They found gods in equations and prayers in particles. They held hands in the dark and promised forever, even when they only had a moment. They dreamed, and dreaming was enough. So now, in the hush after the orchestra, in the gentle dark after the candles go out, the last human lies down, not in defeat, but in rest. The kind of rest that comes after a long, full day, after stories have been told and fires have gone low, after the dishes are done and the laughter has quieted and the last goodnight has been whispered. They lie down not in grief, but in gratitude. And in that sleep perhaps there are dreams, dreams of forests, alive again, dreams of whales singing in deep blue caverns, of laughter echoing in school halls, of dinners shared, of sunsets watched, of birthdays, of holding someone's hand and never wanting to let go, And maybe in those dreams, they see the first human again, not in history books, but in a field, looking at stars for the first time, wondering, just wondering, because wondering was the beginning. And maybe it is the end, too. Or maybe just maybe it's a return to silence, to soil, to something deeper than memory and older than time. The body fades, but the breath remains, folded into wind, into trees, into stars. The world doesn't end. It simply continues, softer. Without humans to name it, the earth does not mourn. The sky does not cry. The universe does not blink. But in one brief corner of time, for one shimmering heartbeat, a species tried. They asked questions no one else asked. They painted on cave walls. They kissed in subways. They wrote poetry on napkins. They invented. They aired. They forgave. And now they rest. And you listening to this, in your bed, heart slow, eyes heavy, you are part of that same story. You are part of the same breath, the same reaching, the same attempt. You are a note in that symphony. You are here. And when your thoughts grow soft, when you let go of today, when the weight of your eyelids becomes gentle, you join them. You drift into the same dream. You rest. You sleep. And the story continues. Quietly, beautifully, as it always has, as it always will, when the cosmos closes its eyes. And now, the stars are quiet. We have wandered through black holes and broken clocks, watched machines awaken and moons collapse, heard the earth whisper and the tides forget their rhythm. We have imagined 100 ends, each stranger and softer than the last, but none of this was prophecy. It was poetry, a lullaby made of questions, stitched together from the edges of science and wonder, not to frighten you, but to slow you, to remind you that even the wildest futures are born from the quietest thoughts. You are here, on this fragile blue marble, for just a blink in time. And yet, within you is the capacity to hold Galaxiesto imagined realities that do not yet exist, and to let go of them gently when sleep begins to pull. So if your eyelids are heavy now, let them fall. If your mind is still humming, let it drift. And if you dream tonight, may you float not in fear, but in curiosity. Not in darkness, but in the deep velvet of the unknown. The future may be strange, but you are not alone in wondering about it. Close your eyes. The universe will still be here when you wake.